moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, please let me know. Today, we're going to talk about the good that Freemasonry does by existing, the good that Freemasonry chooses to do, and the good that Freemasonry is guilty of not doing. As Voltaire said, we are all guilty of the good we do not do. I think that applies to Freemasonry as well. We're going to talk about why that is. But as you know, for the first 60 minutes or so, we just hang out, wait to see who wants to join. Any thoughts you guys want to share, let me know. Let's give it some time and let's see who finds us. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Get that light a little bit in a better position. Beautiful day here once again. Hello, Joel. Thank you to Mother Nature. Well, you came back, so you must not be that mad about it. I think you and some other dude in the chat were fighting. I treat it like I treat children. If two people in the chat are fighting, I just time them both out. It's usually the best approach to take. Well, who cares? Just say nice things and then it'll be repeated twice. For the time being, though, let me just jump in here. So, yeah, jump in the chat, say hello. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. We're just going to keep hanging out. Does the Freemasons believe in trusting a Santa Claus to help the poor? I mean, I don't know what that means. If you're asking me, do Freemasons believe in Santa? There might be kids watching, so I'm going to say yes. Santa Claus absolutely exists and is real, because I would hate for people to hate to drop any balls on anybody or drop the ball on some things. I think, however, within Freemasonry, it's not simply a matter of Santa Claus helping our communities, not just the poor in our communities, but helping the communities. I think it's up to all of us to help our communities economically, socially, etc., etc. And Freemasonry, without a doubt, already does that. Well, it, you know, I chose to time you out, you and the other dude. I think I timed you both out for a minute to calm everything down. It's what I choose to do when people are having these fights on stream. So there you go. You can agree with it or disagree with it. Either way is perfectly fine. But that's what I chose to do. I talked yesterday about the current, the Spokane, the Washington State forest fires, the effect they're having on individuals, and providing assistance, how we can provide assistance, not just to our brethren who are in trouble, but to anybody who may be affected by these forest fires. I want to talk about that again today. The Freemasons in Spokane, Washington, particularly or especially the Scottish Rite Brethren in Spokane, Washington, are doing a great job trying to coordinate relief efforts for those affected. There are phone numbers to call. There are links. I'm putting all of that I will put all of that in the description to this video. I'll try to add it to the chat. And I'm going to read out the comment from the Scottish Rite of Spokane, Roger Nelson, 33rd degree, in the description to this video. Scottish Rite declan. So Scottish Rite actually came from France, ironically enough, but nonetheless, Scottish Rite, it's an independent body within Freemasonry. It is divided amongst different jurisdictions. So, for example, there is the Southern Scottish Rite jurisdiction, the Northern Scottish Rite jurisdiction. There's the Canadian Supreme Council as well. There's also Scottish Rite in Europe, though I'm not as familiar with how it's divided up in terms of jurisdictions. Awesome, Declan6. Well, Declan, that sounds like a Scottish name. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I mean, I think you're trying to say you're tired of people claiming Freemasons are part of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm tired of that as well, believe me. Just for the record, once again, the Freemasons are not connected to Epstein. Epstein was not a Freemason, nor is Ghislaine Maxwell. People keep saying she is. Um, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, though, conspiracy theories will always run rampant on social media. There's really not a lot that we can do about it, as much as I wish that was not the case, other than do our best to show the truth about what Freemasonry is. Nice, Spirit. Are you excited for that? Do you do that as a presentation in lodge, or you do that for your own interest? What is the thinking behind it? It is. You are correct about that, Declan. I mean, I think the oldest lodge, right, is St. Mary's. Isn't that where Kilwinning meets, if I recall correctly? Or Ayrshire? Anyways, yeah, Scotland has the oldest Masonic lodge in the world. I usually go with 1634 as the start of Freemasonry because that is the date that we had the first speculative Masons join. Okay, I did not know that, Dad, but hey, that's a sign of, in some ways, brotherhood, right? There's different types of brotherhood. There's brotherhood amongst Masons, there's brotherhood amongst brothers, there's brotherhood amongst professionals. Whether you're a forest fire in Mexico, well, sorry, whether you are a firefighter in Mexico or a firefighter in BC or a firefighter in America or France, I'm guessing there's a real brotherhood there, and I'm sure that they are, I mean, maybe not happy to help is the right term, but I'm sure that they are, they want to help their brothers wherever they may be fighting fires. Yeah, hey, there's a little bit of that. Um, Joel, you're not a victim. You're a guy on a YouTube stream who got put in a timeout. You need to calm down a lot. Um, so there's no different process for someone to uh, there's no different process if someone has a criminal record to join Freemasonry versus if they don't. It's the same process for everyone. Having a criminal record may make it more difficult or less likely to join or to be accepted, but there's a lot of questions before we can say that for sure. Like, what was the nature of the crime? How long ago was it? Have you tried to make amends, gone to counseling, done things to turn your life around? This is one of those situations where what I always tell people is if you have a criminal record and you want to be a Freemason, don't do the work for the lodge, meaning you should still approach the lodge, express your interest in joining, be honest about the criminal record that you have, and, what happened. Also, be honest about steps you've taken to try to improve your life, to make things better, and see what the lodge says. The lodge may, decide to let you in. I've known people with criminal records become Freemasons. The lodge may decide not to accept you if they feel that the crime was too severe or they don't think you've done sufficient to, make amends, whatever it might be. But that's up to the lodge, and the lodge has the right to say yes. The lodge has the right to say no. Um, you have a responsibility, if you're interested in joining, to just apply. Go through the process, be honest, be upfront. If you've been to counseling, it might be worth bringing with you a letter from, your counselor confirming your attendance, whatever it might be. Um, well, I mean, you get on the stream when you can. Dennis, Armageddon, White. So I understand. Obviously, you have to put school first. Um, and you have to put your education first. So you get here when you can get here. When you can't, you can't. Things have been going well. I got some very exciting things coming up. Another 24-hour content marathon, August 21st to 22nd, which will include, amongst other things, interviews with various members and various individuals from the Masonic Medical Research Institute. We're going to be celebrating the Research Institute, and 50% of all funds raised during that time will go to the Institute itself, or 50% of all the revenues from that stream. We're also, tomorrow, actually, I just have this announcement, going to have on the stream a brother Mason, Duan Hanna, who is organizing the Windsor Hip Hop Festival. And we're going to talk about uh, the upcoming Windsor Hip Hop Festival, how he considers, or the extent to which he considers his work with the hip hop community equivalent to his work within Freemasonry. I'm going to be there streaming. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow at the 1 p.m. Eastern stream. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Joel, dropping it is a good idea. Coming from England, I have heard about. Yeah, I mean, I think that is the oldest lodge in Scotland. Um, got an invite to a mixed lodge. When you say mixed lodge, do you mean like co-masonry? I mean, co-masonry is very prominent throughout the world. Primarily, it originated in France. Um, I mean, what I would say is I have no issue with co-masonry, no issue with any other groups doing what they want. I would just say double check with your secretary to make sure that they recognize the mixed lodge. Um, So women can be Masons, but no, they cannot be part of the same lodge as a general rule. Co-Masonry is an exception, but Freemasonry, as a general rule, you have your Order of Women Freemasons, which started in 1908. Those are for women. If they want to join, they can become, they become Freemasons, and they're my brothers, at least pursuant to the United Grand Lodge of England, as much as anything else. But they could not attend my lodge during a meeting, nor could I attend their lodge during a meeting, right? It is still a fraternity and a sorority. There's also Eastern Star, where you can have men and women do meet together. Very often they will be romantically involved because historically, Eastern Star was for the mothers, the daughters, the sisters, or the wives of Freemasons to join and be active in. So yeah, you'll have the wife be part of an Eastern Lodge and the husband be part of a Masonic Lodge. And the husband may join the Eastern Star as well. That's possible. And yeah, from there, there's also, again, like I said, co-masonry, but that is a irregular, or that is co-masonry as a general rule is not recognized. Like you would not consider them masons for the purposes of being able to attend a meeting. So the short answer is yes, women can be masons or be part of the Eastern Star. And I suppose it's possible to have romantic, again, Eastern Star especially. Initially, it was open to, amongst other relationships, the wives of Freemasons. Um, Hello, Roshan. Thank you for being here. Well, Dylan, mark your calendars, August 21st to August 22nd, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. Normally, I start my streams 1 p.m., but for those, because my Patreons voted for it, I start at 2 p.m. for the 24-hour stream. Um, no, that was not the Freemasons. We're not severing anyone's heads. Okay, well, I mean, just talk to your secretary about Spirit of Justice. And if your secretary knows about it, then I say, so long as you've checked with the appropriate Masonic authorities. No, King Arthur, that's not true. You know that's not true. You're just being dumb. I don't know what the Georgia Guidestones are precisely, but I don't think they exist anymore. Weren't they taken down? Um, Sorry, Cheeseburger, you're on your own. No, we do not sever the heads of anyone. And you couldn't be a disbeliever. I don't even know what that would mean. Freemasonry isn't a religion, so um, you can't be quote unquote a disbeliever of Freemasonry because there is no dogma or religious beliefs. Um, No, Freemasonry is not a religion for a variety of reasons, but the main reason Freemasonry is not a religion is because Freemasonry makes no promises of salvation nor threats of damnation. If you want to know what happens to yourself in the next life, don't talk to a Freemason, talk to your priest or your rabbi or your imam or your spiritual leader. That is one of many reasons why Freemasonry is not a religion. Um, Freemasonry was never officially or literally connected with the Templars. Legend has the connection, and there is a Masonic rite or independent body that um, calls itself the Knights Templars out of the York Rite. However, very sorry to disappoint you, it's a legend. It's historical legend. It's not literal. Freemasonry did not evolve from from the Templars. Freemasonry evolved from stone masons and stone Masonic guilds in the 15th and 16th centuries. 33rd Scottish Rite? I mean, that's awesome, Joel Miller. I don't think you are, though, because you've also told me in the past that you are 99th degree Scottish Rite. So I don't think you are, in fact, the case. And the highest degree in Freemasonry, as we all know, once again, is the third degree is the third degree. Scottish Rite degrees, York Rite degrees, the Shrine, Eastern Star, those are all wonderful organizations and wonderful parts of the Masonic family. However, they are not ultimately Masonic. They're not ultimately the highest degree in Freemasonry. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the third degree. Who has infiltrated every major organized religion? Not Freemasonry. Freemasonry isn't infiltrating anything. We're not an infiltration organization. That rhymed. Freemasonry ultimately is its own club and its own group. We have members from every major religion, as well as members from no particular religion, like me. That doesn't mean we're infiltrating anyone. It just so happens that if you're a Muslim and a Freemason, then you are a Muslim and a Freemason. You didn't infiltrate the Muslim faith. You wouldn't say that about plumbers, even though plumbers come from all different faiths and backgrounds as well, or Rotarians, or the Elks, or the Moose. Um, well, and we also have the Order of Rainbow, Robert, right? The International Order of Rainbow for young women ages 11 to 21, if I recall correctly. I mean, yeah, women within Freemasonry women are part of Freemasonry or are Freemasons in a variety of ways. Again, Order of Women Freemasons, Eastern Star, Rainbow, and that doesn't even include or doesn't even consider organizations like, for example, Co-Masonry. Um, yeah, I don't know why they do that, Marin Oreos. It's just, unfortunately, on social media, one thing, again, it goes back to this idea of being owed something. Joel was upset that I timed him out yesterday because he was getting into some fight with somebody else. And so he's just decided to do that to be a jerk because he found it funny. You just get used to it. People are what they are. Um, and people are what they are on YouTube, especially. Well, thank you, Allie. Much obliged. Muslim, Mormons. Yeah, but that's not infiltrating any religions. That's simply having different members of different religious faiths. I mean, no, Ben, because there are no valid concerns with Freemasonry. There are invalid concerns based on false information and not understanding what Freemasonry is, which I hope to dispel. Um, but the idea that there's valid criticism or concerns, I mean, there can be valid concerns of Freemasonry within Freemasonry. For example, I have many concerns with the decisions made by different Grand Lodges with the reduction in membership, um, things of that nature. But that's not the same thing as, for example, believing that we are infiltrating governments to take over the world. I got a big nose. I've grown to accept it. Please hit like and subscribe. I think ultimately mayo and Oreos, there really isn't a way to make that balance that will make people happy. Like, if you are someone who believes, for example, that Freemasons are running the world, there's no amount of transparency we can provide that will cause you to change your mind or change your opinion. And providing too much transparency about our Masonic rituals in order to change someone's mind, all that does is it won't change their mind, but what it will do is reduce the bonds of friendship and brotherhood between members because now our shared knowledge is out there in the public. And at the same time, it will result in giving people who want to join spoilers as to the rituals and ceremonies. We just have to accept that there is a certain percentage of people out there who, for whatever reason, are. I mean, it's not just within Freemasonry, it could be about a lot of different groups, but who have decided that Freemasons cannot be trusted and should not be trusted. And in a lot of cases, I think the majority of cases, them believing that is an important thing for them for their emotional health because it gives them something to focus on instead of their own shortcomings and problems in life. So I don't think we should worry about trying to balance those two things. I think ultimately what we need to do is just focus on being the best version of ourselves that we can be and allow the situation to, play out as it would. No, you do not have to be introduced. One of the biggest mistakes that people make, Ali, is thinking that, they have to wait for an invitation or an introduction to join. If that is what you believe, then I guess take this stream as an invitation. And there you go. But you don't have to be invited. You, in fact, should not be invited. You should take the first step by approaching the lodge and expressing your interest in joining. Um, right? Don't wait for someone to invite you. Don't wait for somebody to show up and tell you to join. You take the first step by approaching the lodge and expressing the interest in joining. It's up to you to make that first move. Namaste. You definitely get used to, I mean, that's the biggest thing about being on YouTube. It starts to feel like arguing against a brick wall. Which, c'est la vie. It kind of is what it is. Um, if being wrong on the internet was illegal, no one would be on the internet. I mean, I would say you have to go into it. You don't have to go into it not knowing. I mean, so much of it is online now, but I would say if you want to get the most out of it, you have to go into it not knowing. It's no different than going to see a movie. If you go into a movie and you know the outcome and you know the possible answers or what's going to happen in the movie, you're not going to enjoy it as much, right? That's unfortunate, but that is the case. Um, that it's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith joining Freemasonry. It's also a leap of faith going to see a movie. It's also a leap of faith getting up in the morning. If you know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, you're not going to enjoy it as much. You're not going to get the same things out of it. If you go in and you experience it, I think it's the difference between experience and expectation, right? If you go into something expecting things, you're going to get a lot less out of it. One of my favorite quotes of all time is happiness is reality minus expectation. If you go in expecting things, you're going to end up being disappointed. If you go in ready to experience Freemasonry, experience the degrees, take in the knowledge, learn from it, you're going to have a much better Masonic experience and quite frankly, a much better life. Um, Well, it depends what you learn online. A lot of what's online is baloney and bullshit, Ben, and you know that as well. Well, you probably don't. I suspect you're one of those guys who genuinely believes what he reads online about Freemasonry. They're nonsense, probably because it allows you to be distracted from any problems you have in your own personal life. Yes, Ben is right about that. There are fees. They're called dues. It depends on um, the lodge. So I'm a member of five Masonic lodges. The cheapest lodge I'm a member of, the cost is $25 per year. The most expensive is $175 per year. A lot of it depends on where the lodge meets. If the lodge meets in small town Texas, you are probably not going to pay a lot. If the lodge meets in Manhattan, New York City, you're probably paying a lot more in dues because the cost of, for example, your meeting space is going to be dependent on the cost of real estate in the area. Rondo, the book is usually better. Depends on which book versus which movie. I will say the one exception I can say so far is The Long Walk. I would say The Long Walk was a better movie than book, although the book was incredible. Um, because people learn better through symbolism and ritual, Mayo and Oreos. It's interesting. I've talked about this in the past, but there are different learning methods, different ways people learn. But a lot of evidence nowadays goes to indicate that people learn more through symbolism and ritual than through just directly being told something, as well as acting things out, as well as listening to things. Um, it sticks better. What's the point of joining? Different people have different reasons to join, Evan. Some people join because they want to be closer to their family. Some people join because they're looking for friends. Some people join because they love tradition. Some people look up nonsense online and join because they think that we're hiding a bunch of gold and silver and run the world, and then they end up being very disappointed and leaving very quickly. Um, Well, Ben, I mean, you know things about it. It's not as though you join on a Monday and then you become a Freemason on a Tuesday. Again, using the movie example, you probably, so if a new movie comes out, going to see that movie is a leap of faith, right? Because you haven't seen it before, and there's a possibility you may love it, there's a possibility you may hate it, and have completely wasted the price of the movie ticket and the time to go see it. But you can try to reduce that leap of faith by, for example, knowing which actors are in the movie, by knowing the genre of movie, by knowing what other people may think about it. They don't have to spoil it, but they can say, if a movie reviewer says, I like this movie, and you like that reviewer, you have a better chance of liking it yourself. Ultimately, there are ways to reduce that leap of faith, but you don't want to go into the movie knowing the ending and knowing the twists. But you want to know enough to have a general idea as to whether you think you'll enjoy it or not. Freemasonry is no different. It is possible to join, and after your initiation, which usually takes a couple hours, and after you paid the fees, you turn out that leap of faith didn't work out and it's just not for you, and then so be it. Then you can just demit from Freemasonry. But part of the process of the application is getting to know all the people around you, around the lodge, talking to them, learning about what they like about Freemasonry. You may have a friend who's joined, and at the end of the day, that does reduce the leap of faith you're taking, and it does give you an idea of what you're joining. But this, you can watch this channel, but the specifics, that's no different than like the twist ending. You look at like The Sixth Sense, right? Would people enjoy that movie as much if the ending was spoiled for them, or Star Wars, or whatever it might be? Um, Fees are so usually initiates have to pay more. Like when I joined, I had to pay a one-time initiation fee of $250, and then my dues were at the time $100 per year. So I basically paid $300. But then after that, I paid $100 per year. That's when I was a member of one lodge. So it just depends, but usually there's a one-time initiation fee. Part of that is to make sure the person is really interested in joining, but also it's because there's more expenses when somebody first joins. The degrees tend to bring out more people, so you have to pay more for food after the lodge meeting, as well as there's aprons, there's fees to Grand Lodge. The secretary has to do a bit of extra work, so usually that's how it goes. You are welcome, Allie. JJ, it's up to the lodge. Most lodges you pay once a year, but some brothers, if they're struggling, may go on a payment plan, something like that. Um, Freemasonry is not a church, so they don't have to make their own. Freemasonry occupies a completely different space than religion. Um, so namaste, being raised and the process was nothing like I thought, worth it, love Freemasonry. Namaste, glad you love Freemasonry. And again, if you had gone in knowing what the process was and having spoilers, it may not have meant as much to you, right? It's important that we don't let people go in with expectations, but go in ready for the experience. Because once again, as I've said many times in the past, and it's true, happiness is reality minus expectation. Well, we're going to talk about that soon. Sanjeet, you can leave that message. That's okay, Mayo and Oreos. I mean, many people consider me a pain in the ass, so maybe you're right. I'm going to talk about that in about half an hour, Mayo and Oreos, because again, there's the good that Freemasonry does by existing, the good that Freemasonry chooses to do, and the good that Freemasonry is guilty of not doing, which is all the things that would be missed out on. Now, I will say Freemasonry is not essential, right? Food, water, medicine, those things are essential. If Freemasonry, stopped existing tomorrow, well, we went, you know, the vast majority of human history without Freemasonry. So it's not essential in that sense, but I do think it does a lot of good. It's kind of like, is your favorite song essential? Right? Is your favorite television show essential? Is your favorite sport essential? It may not be literally essential, but it doesn't mean it doesn't provide a lot of value to the world. And we'll talk about what those values are. Um, no, we don't murder anybody. Ben, if we were murdering people, that would be against the law. One of the first things we're taught in Freemasonry is to, I gotta fix this, is to be compliant with the laws of the country in which you live or in which you work. So, no, we are not murdering anyone. Nor is it a cult. And half the internet can say whatever it wants, half the internet is wrong. Um, I have no idea what that photo is, Hypno, but it doesn't sound like a legitimate photograph to me. Never heard of it. So, French Masons, I guess right now they're in court. I don't know if they've been found guilty or not, or if the court process is going on. For the record, for whatever that's worth, my understanding is I could not have visited their lodge. They were an illegitimate Masonic lodge or body, which means they're not recognized. But look, individual Masons can absolutely commit crimes. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. We're human beings and we can fail and we can be fallible. We can commit crimes. We shouldn't be. And if we are, we should be kicked out of Freemasonry, as well as go to jail and face any other appropriate legal or otherwise penalties. That's part of the reason why it's so important to guard the West Gate, is what it's called. Make sure that people we have joining are good people and are not going to bring discredit to the craft. We've talked about this before, right? Like, so an initiation, bringing somebody new into Freemasonry, is a is a leap of faith on both, for both parties, right? It's a leap of faith for the person joining that they're going to enjoy and like Freemasonry, and it's a leap of faith for the lodge that is bringing in the applicant, because they may end up being not good, they may end up being who knows what, right? They may end up being a bad person, they may end up committing crimes, they may end up having financial issues and can't pay their dues. There's no way to know for sure, right? Ultimately, what we have to do within Freemasonry is, in the same way we let the candidate know kind of what we talk to the candidate, we get to know them, we give them the information that they need in order to make an informed decision about whether they think they'll enjoy Freemasonry or not, and then they join and we find out. It works the other way as well. We within the lodge need to do our best to get to know the candidate or the applicant, and we need to make the best decision we can as to whether we think he'll bring credit to the craft or not. And sometimes we're going to get it wrong. All we can do is our best. So Freemasonry is a leap of faith on both parts. It's a leap of faith on the part of the person applying to join, and it's a leap of faith on the part of the lodge admitting that person. Um, Namaste, love the interview process. How long was the interview process for you? Um, I mean, religious extremists and fanatics are often. I mean, I think the word there is extremist and fanatics. You should not be an extremist or a fanatic about anything. In my experience, even with Freemasonry, which is not a religion, even with being a plumber, even with football, it's being an extremist and a fanatic. That's where the problems start. How many sports fans have committed crimes because they were so extreme and fanatical about about their sports team winning or losing and the riots after? Um, well, thank you, Hypno. So you need to find a balance in life. Fanaticism is usually an incredibly unhealthy approach to take. Twisted, it's going well. How are you doing? So namaste. I don't remember. It took forever. That's probably a good thing that it took forever. It probably means, again, that that leap of faith that we talked about was relatively reduced, right? It was not a giant leap of faith, put it that way, to get when you joined. You had a good idea of what you were joining, and both sides of the order, both sides of Freemasonry, both sides of the Masonic order, like you and the applicant, you both kind of were comfortable proceeding and had the confidence that comes from knowing you had done all you could to prepare yourselves and to limit that leap of faith when joining Freemasonry. I'm glad you're living the dream. Um, so I don't know what type of courses Scientology offer. Um, I can say Freemasonry. I mean, many jurisdictions offer, like there's the College of Freemasonry here in Ontario, where they'll offer courses about the history of Freemasonry, how it started, history of Freemasonry in Ontario. Many jurisdictions will offer training courses. Very often, the training courses are about particular jobs within the lodge. So, for example, if you are the secretary of a Masonic lodge, there are responsibilities you have around administrative tasks, and very often Grand Lodge will provide courses and training on how to fulfill those administrative duties. Good men are Freemasons. Unfortunately, sometimes bad men are Freemasons as well, because we're all human beings. But we in Freemasonry have a responsibility to guard the West Gate as well as possible to ensure that we are letting good people through and not bad people. But sometimes we're going to mess up. That's just human nature. We all make mistakes. Um, Being a good person doesn't get you to heaven, Ben. Scientology is not Freemasonry. And Freemasonry does, I mean, I would agree. Well, that's not a religion, that's a cult, right? Any group that has as one of its tenets and one of its ideas um, the isolation or the separation of individuals from those outside of the group. At that point, I don't think that's a religion anymore. That's a cult. And it's a major warning sign. If you know somebody and they're part of a group organization, and one of the things that group is doing is isolating them or telling them not to associate with former friends, former families, workers, whatever it might be, that's a major red flag. And you may have to contact authorities to make sure they're okay. So, Robert, I mean, I'm a big believer in that. I think every Mason should have some type of safe food handling course or safe food handling certification. I have it, but you should definitely have it if you are um, a junior warden or responsible for food service. Like, unfortunately, I just read that the first deaths have taken place from the cyclosporin. I think that's what it's called. The current, I should double check the name. The current food-based illness that is, throughout the United States, the one that causes the very severe diarrhea. Presently, 1 out of every 1,000 people in Michigan have been hospitalized for it. And they just had their first deaths coming from it. Because diarrhea, it will dehydrate you, it will cause electrolyte imbalances, and it can absolutely kill you if you're not being careful. Um, there are also cases of it in Windsor, Ontario, here, unfortunately. So the point is, we need to be careful and we need to have proper, safe food handling, even if it's not technically required, because most fraternal organizations are not required to have that, safe handling certifications. I still think we should. Many times it's offered for free. Many times the lodge may be able to cover some of the costs of it if you need to pay to get the certification. And a lot of our Masonic lodges, it's older members, it's members with pre-existing conditions that are absolutely at risk. So, I think criminals hide behind whatever is most convenient for them to hide behind, right, Ben? They may hide behind religion, they may hide behind nationality, they may hide behind, who knows? They may hide behind their profession, they may hide behind their friends, they may hide behind a disability. About that, I think we just went. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Phone just cut out. It's not the Masons coming to get me. I think we're back. Criminals will hide, as somebody who worked in a jail and was a probation officer for many years, criminals will use and hide behind whatever labels are most convenient for them. I can tell you Freemasonry, which is not a religion nor a nationality, is also not a convenient label to hide behind. Because if you are a Freemason and you're committing crimes, I can tell you this, I would contact the police about you. Um, which foods are dangerous? Right now, to my knowledge, and double check with local health authorities, it's particularly pre-bagged lettuce and salad mixes, as well as a lot of produce in general. One of the best things you can do is stick to cooking all of your produce. Um, Wash under cold running water and add vinegar to it. You can find tips on how to properly wash food and produce, or just stick to foods you have to cook. Right? Still, you can have fruits and vegetables, whatever it is, but just vegetables that you cook first. Sanitize your workstations, like if you're serving vegetables and you're peeling them, make sure after you're done peeling them, aside from washing them, cooking them, you also sanitize the area over which you were peeling and washing the vegetables. Um, it's nothing to mess around with, and it's probably worth taking some food handler certification courses, just because why not, right? In the same way, it's probably worth taking courses about how to properly serve alcohol to people. If you're part of a Masonic lodge and it does include alcohol before or after, especially after a meeting, and you have Masons assisting with bar services, taking a few minutes to take a smart serve course doesn't cost that much, and you can at least know that you're being safe. Um, Kevin, that's because you didn't buy me dinner. Um, I mean, Ben, I think you're being too harsh on religion. I mean, look, I'm not religious myself necessarily. I believe in a supreme being, but I'm also not a reviler of anyone's religion. I think people like to harm others, unfortunately. I don't think it's a religious issue. Yeah, vinegar. I've read that vinegar is actually a really good thing to use when you're washing vegetables. I read, but double check this. It's 3 parts vinegar to 1 part water is the proper kind of ratio. None of this stuff is a joke, and there is Freemasonry in Hawaii, and same thing. I'm sure that their junior wardens are being extra careful about, about properly washing their food for both hookworm and the current parasite. Cyclosporin, I think, is what it's called. I think it came from what you were studying, Ben. It's not that you were studying it, it's what you were using to study or the sources you were studying, which I think has given you a very biased and improper and incorrect view of both Freemasonry, which is a civic group, and religions. Um, we just don't. I mean, I've never drank or done the herb, if you will, though some Masons do, some don't. Um, it's legal in my state. Some states it's completely legal. I mean, there's different rules. I don't know what each state has. I believe in Canada it's legal now completely. Again, because I don't partake, I never really paid attention to it. Um, I'm not sure if you even saw what you think you saw, Ben. I mean, with the significant growth of artificial intelligence, the ability to Photoshop pictures, the ability to lie about things on pictures. I think you're probably very, very. I don't know if you even know what you saw necessarily. Like, there's a lot of pictures that purport to be Masonic that are heavily photoshopped or, in fact, AI, and I've seen a few of them. I know that diagram. I think I know the diagram. It's with the two staircases, one going up, from the left to the right, the other right to the left, center. One is the Scottish Rite, one is the York Rite bodies, and the progression of degrees. I'm not a big fan of that picture or diagram for a variety of reasons, but primarily because it seems to imply that 33rd degree or the equivalent York Rite degree, which I forget what it is, Knights Templar, is higher than the third degree. Really, what it should have been, but I guess they couldn't do it because it'd be so insanely wide, is have the third degree at the top and then the York and Scottish Rite branching off. It also does not include the shrine, to my knowledge, the shrine, Demolay, Rainbow, or Eastern Star, which are all incredibly important parts of the Masonic family. We don't rule the world. Very sorry to disappoint. Yes, thank you, American Spartan. Well, I mean, that is one of the issues with it, is it makes it look like a pyramid. It's not, unless you count the pyramid as stopping at the third degree. I just think when people created that diagram, they were trying to find the most simple and easy way to demonstrate kind of the Masonic, I don't even know what best term to call it, just the Masonic family, but they didn't do a very good job with it, I think. So I'm not a big fan of that picture. I think if you're going to use that picture to understand Freemasonry, you need to be a Freemason first for a while to truly understand what it's showing and what it's demonstrating. Um, User, I don't think today is your third day of being alive. If so, that's very impressive to be a 3-day old and to be able to be typing on stream. But nonetheless, thank you for being here. Am I from Texas? I'm not, but I've been to Texas and I love Texas. Texas is absolutely an incredible state with incredible Freemasons. So I love being there. The Catholic Church has put out some misinformation about Freemasonry, most famously Humanum Genus, which was from 19. I'm going to get this wrong. Which was from 1888, I believe is when that was published, from Pope Leo the 13th. That was the biggest misunderstanding about Freemasonry. You have to be, I mean, you don't have to be a murderer to know murdering is wrong, but you would probably have to be a murderer to understand the process of what it is to do that and how to do it and the emotional toil of it. Freemasonry is the same in the sense that we're not murdering anybody, obviously. No conspiracy theories, please. I mean, a better example would be a bicycle. You can read every single book about riding a bicycle. You can study all the diagrams until you've actually ridden a bicycle, you don't truly understand it. Freemasonry is the same way. You can read all you want about Freemasonry, both the true stuff and the false stuff. Until you actually are a Freemason, you don't really understand it. It's like riding a bicycle. It's like anything. Freemasonry is an experiential thing. And that's the thing you need to understand. I'd like to. I wouldn't be able to sit in with one of their meetings, JJ, but I'd love to actually talk to a Chinese Freemason. They have a fascinating history, like genuinely a fascinating history. And I wish I could spend more time learning about it, but it's not something I know much about at the moment. If you went to court, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about there. I think you are way overestimating the value of Freemason, like how big Freemasonry is, quote unquote. I don't really know what you're talking about there. Freemasonry, I mean, it has. I mean, there are some Masonic judges, most are not. There are some Masonic lawyers, most are not. There are some Masonic teachers, most are not. There are some Masonic plumbers, most are not. Like, yeah, there's been, in the same way, there are some elk judges, right? I've never been a soldier, but I have nothing but respect for soldiers. I think they're incredible, and the work that they do is amazing. Um, keeping fighting for my freedom. My grandfather was a soldier, fought in World War II. But I have no legs, so I couldn't be a soldier. I don't think I'd pass the physical. And even if I wanted to, those guys are 10 times tougher than I am. Nothing but respect for them. My great grandfather. Nice. So I'm right across from Detroit. I live in Windsor, Ontario. I love Detroit. I think it's one of the greatest cities in the world. It's one of the greatest manufacturing cities. It's also one of the greatest, genuinely one of the greatest music cities in the world with Motown. I would argue you could probably say, in terms of the most important cities ever, it goes. It goes Nashville, without a doubt, followed by Los Angeles with like the Sunset Strip and the hair metal, and after that, I think Detroit and Motown has to be number three. So I love Detroit, and the Detroit Masonic Temple has been an incredibly important part of music history. Look at the White Stripes, right? Um, They have not. See, this is why, Ben, I don't think you are capable of, and I don't think you're capable of doing proper research because you don't understand it. No, Freemasonry, we are not the majority holders of public office. Even if you want to use the presidency, probably 15 or 16 of the last 40 of, the 45 American presidents have been Freemasons, which is less than 50%, which is less than um, well less than 50%. So, and the Constitution does not forbid Freemasons. I definitely don't think Catholics are either. I think Protestants would be, right? How can a Freemason be a foreign agent if a Freemason is born in the United States, right? He's not a foreign agent. Freemasonry is not a nationality. It's not a citizenship. It's a club. Um, yeah, that Stephen O'Connor, that did not sound right to me. I was like, I highly doubt that. That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy to little old me. So I do not know what that means. How it is that that Catholics could be the majority holders of public office. That sounds crazy. Ben, again, you just don't know what you're talking about. Freemasons are not the kings of the Vatican army. The Vatican is not a big fan of Freemasonry, although I'm hoping to change that one day. Well, Catholics don't hate us, namaste. When you say us, I know you're talking about Freemasons. I mean, the Catholic position officially on Freemasonry is if you are a Freemason, you and a Catholic, you're not allowed to take communion. Um, which that is the Catholic opinion. It's unfortunate that the Catholics have that position. However, hopefully we can one day change that if we just keep working on it. Having said that, I know many Catholic Freemasons. Freemasonry is hugely popular in the Philippines, as well as North America, as well as South America, where there's a large Catholic population. None of them hate Freemasonry. So it may be that the Catholic Church officially has issues with Freemasonry. I wouldn't even say it hates us. It just disagrees with being a Catholic and a Freemason because they misunderstand it. The typical Catholic, I don't think, hates Freemasonry at all. I was just in a Catholic church a couple of days ago volunteering with them. Didn't sense any hatred, any hatred. Um, the weirdest moment I've had in my life is being on this stream sometimes, dealing with Ben Cover. No, it's not about money. It's not about power. It's about trying to do good in this world or just meet with other people. If life is not having any meaning, uh, invisible, I am going to treat your question as serious. And Stephen says Shriners have built tons of children's hospitals. Um, and I hope that you're doing okay, but that's a heck of a question to ask. Here's what I'll say. If you do decide that you want to end your life and you try to do it, your physical body will try to heal you and stop you. For example, if you try to cut yourself, your body will try to coagulate the blood to stop the bleeding. And your heart will start to pump faster to try to get more blood around you. If you try to drown, you will instinctively try to swim back to the surface. Your body will continue to try to heal you despite what you do. That shows you that physically your body is valuable. That even though mentally you may have a certain way you're feeling, your body wants to live. It wants to keep going. That should be a sign that you are valuable, if in no other level, a physical level. Um, you will leave people behind who care about you, who want you to be okay, and they will have to struggle with that feeling of losing you. And there are many things that you can do in this life to make other people's lives better. You have skill, you have ability, you have talents. Um, but even if none of that is the case, and you feel like none of that is the case, the fact that physically your heart keeps beating for as long as it can, the fact that your blood keeps pumping for as long as it can, and the fact that physically your physical self will try to prevent your death, I think should tell you something. And it should tell you that you do want to live at the most basic and fundamental level. And therefore, there's probably a reason to do so. Um, some Masons think Jesus is Lord. Some Masons think Allah is Lord. Some Masons, like me, think the rational nature of the universe through geometry is Lord. Um, what order? Agent Smith, that's a weird way to put that question. So you need to calm down a little bit. I've never heard it described quite that way before. It's not rank, it's degrees and offices. I'm a third degree Master Mason. I'm also 18th degree Scottish Rite. Um, my office is currently Worshipful Master of Border Cities Lodge number 554. Jesus still loved you. How is Dennis doing? Cam. I'm not in the Orange Order. The Orange Order isn't really in North America, at least to my knowledge. I think it's primarily in Ireland. Um, I think a lot of doctors, unfortunately, don't make a lot of money, Stephen. Um, Absolutely, as Namaste says, you can be gay or straight and be a Freemason. It's perfectly fine. What matters is, do you care about the brethren and the people around you, and are you a good person? You can be a good person and gay, you can be a good person and straight. It doesn't matter, nor should it, right? And if it does matter to you, then that's probably not a healthy approach to take in life. There you go, Stephen. Had surgery at the Scottish Rite Hospital in Dallas. I don't know if a curve of your brain is a good thing or a bad thing, Yo Maple. I didn't fart, I promise. I just moved in my wheelchair. Shriners is a wonderful organization and an excellent part of being the Masonic family, without question. It's one of the things that, I think a lot of people will say, they'll say something to the effect of like, they'll say something to the effect of like, I hate the Masons, but I love the Shriners, not realizing that the Shriners are the Freemasons. So the people at the hospital, our dues are low. I mean, that's an issue, Namaste, that a lot of people are struggling with, right? Which is, unfortunately, I've talked about this a lot. Economy matters. The economics matter where you live. If the cost of food and groceries are going up, and they have by over 30% in the last 5 years alone, if the cost of gas is going up, if the cost of fuel is going up, at a certain point, Masons have to start deciding, can I pay for my dues or can I pay for my food? And which is I'm going to have to pay for. Or they may be part of six Masonic lodges and they may need to drop it down to two. Or, a Masonic lodge and two appendant bodies. They may not be able to be part of the appendant bodies anymore. Finding a way is really challenging sometimes. So you need to keep that in mind. I mean, that might be true, Ben. I have no idea. I know very little about Mormonism. Obviously, the founder of Mormonism was a Freemason. A lot of people know that famously, but I don't know a lot about Mormonism to be able to say. I think if you are Mormon and that is the case, but you find a great, if it is worth to you 30% of your income, then that's great. But I also suspect that the Mormon Church probably provides options for people who cannot afford to pay, just like Freemasonry. If you can't afford to pay your dues, usually a lodge will provide some type of benevolence or assistance. Um, I mean, some people would say you should have your dues go up every, 10 years, um, or every year based on cost of inflation. Like, it's one of those situations where you kind of have to figure it out. It's tough. But a lot of people are saying, and I've talked to people who've said they're skipping attending Masonic meetings because they can't afford the gas to go to the meeting, especially if they live 30, 40 minutes away. Um, yeah, starting your own church, I mean, you can start your own church if you want, but I think that's probably not a healthy approach. And again, Freemasonry is not a church, just for the record. I mean, increased by $10 is not crazy. Cost of living is probably a lot higher than that, but it's still $10 is $10. And when gas is over $4 a gallon in the States, and when grocery prices have increased on average of 30% since 2025, And when housing costs have gone through the roof, and etc., and etc., and etc., at a certain point, people have to start making some choices and some decisions, you know? So I want to talk about and I was planning to talk about this before, the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing, the good that Freemasonry can do, and the good that Freemasonry is guilty of not doing. As Voltaire said, we are all guilty of the good we do not do. Before I get into that, I want to read something one more time. This is kind of a good segue into this discussion. I shared one from the Spokane or the Washington Scottish Rite, but I want to share something now from Washington Masonic Services as well. This is all from Spokane. This is all from Washington, but obviously this is incredibly important. As you know, they're going through some pretty significant forest fires at the moment. A lot of Masons have been affected by it. A lot of people have been affected by it. This is a statement released from the Washington Masonic Services, shared by Most Worshipful Brother Cameron Bailey. I want to read the statement here. Spokane complex fire. By the way, pronouncing Spokane, I never know if it's Spokane or Spokane. However it is, I'm very sorry for pronouncing it incorrectly. Produced this statement 20 hours ago on August 3rd. The recent Spokane complex fires has impacted our Masonic families, communities, and first responders across our state. Our hearts are with everyone facing uncertainty during this difficult time. If you'd like to support relief efforts, you can make a donation to the Washington Masonic Services Disaster Relief Fund. Any contribution, no matter the size, helps provide assistance when it's needed most. If you or someone you know has been affected by the Spokane complex fires and needs support, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're here to help. I'm going to leave this link in the description, but there is a link, masonscare.givecloud.co, Spokane complex fires. This is dated August 2nd, 2026. Greetings, Masonic family. As we are sure you have heard, here in Eastern Washington, we're experiencing significant tragedy from wildfires as they devastate the lives of countless residents in the area. Just Spokane complex fires. Businesses, citizens, and members of our Masonic family have lost everything. During these challenging times, let us come together as a united and resilient Masonic community. We stand in solidarity with our brothers and their loved ones who may be grappling with loss, displacement, or uncertainty. In the true spirit of Freemasonry, let us extend our hands and hearts to offer support wherever it is needed. While material possessions can be rebuilt, the emotional wounds caused by such events can linger. Together, we can be beacons of light for each other, providing comfort, compassion, and assistance as we are able. We must continue to live by our Masonic values, supporting one another with unwavering strength and compassion. In unity, we will overcome this trial and emerge even stronger, for that is the essence of brotherhood. These generous principles extend further, for every human being has a claim upon your kind offices. As a dedicated charitable arm of our Grand Lodge, Washington Masonic Services has a disaster relief fund to support those impacted by the Spokane complex fires. I'll be leaving that eventually in the description to this video, and it's also on my social media channels. Our WAMS case managers are also seeking to contact Masons in the area to offer assistance. Remember the promise you made as an entered apprentice Mason, and please contribute as much as necessity requires and your ability permits, or prudence permits. There is also, and I want to share this as well, a link from the Scottish Rite in Washington. Let me just pull that up in just 1 second. No, we do not commit fires. All right, Ben, I'm going to put you in a timeout for that. People are losing their lives. That's not something that you be joking about. Or if you believe it, that's not something you be trolling about. People are losing their homes, their lives. That's getting you put in a timeout. No different than when somebody on this channel a little while ago said Freemasons start cancer. I know that they were trying to be funny, but a Mason had just died of cancer. So there are things that are too far, and that's one of them. Yo Maple, you get used to it. It's just because he's a sad and lonely and harmed individual who's not leading a good life. And this is kind of when you're doing that and when you're struggling with that, this is kind of what you have to do. It's unfortunate, but he's just a sad, lonely individual. I also want to read this from the Spokane Scottish Rite. As you are undoubtedly aware, this was yesterday at noon. Eastern Washington, and particularly the Spokane region, has experienced devastating wildfires over the past several days. More than 60,000 people have been forced to evacuate their homes, and more than 640 homes have been lost. Many families continue to face uncertainty as firefighters work to contain these fast moving fires. Unfortunately, members of our own Scottish Rite family have been affected. While damage assessments continue, we know that several of our brethren remain evacuated from their homes. Two Scottish Rite Masons have lost their homes entirely, another has sustained significant damage to his property, and we continue working to identify any additional brethren or families who may be in need of assistance. I would ask each of you to please forward this message to the members of your valley as soon as possible. Doing so will help ensure that brethren who need assistance know where to turn, and that those wishing to help have reliable and coordinated means of doing so. In times such as these, we are reminded that Scottish Rite is more than an organization. It is a brotherhood founded upon compassion, relief, and our unwavering commitment to one another. I also ask that each personal representative and general secretary reach out to the brethren in your valley, particularly those who may have family or ties to Eastern Washington, to determine whether any additional assistance is needed. To ensure that relief efforts are coordinated efficiently and assistance reaches those who need it most, we are asking that all donations be directed through Washington Masonic Services. Likewise, any brother or family in need of assistance should contact Washington Masonic Services directly, where immediate disaster relief resources are available. To request assistance, please contact Washington Masonic Services at 253-442-2505 or 844-288-3531 to speak with a member of the Masonic Outreach Services team. To make a donation to the Washington Masonic Services Disaster Relief Fund, please visit, the link will be in the description, masoniccare.org. For well over a decade, Scottish Rite in the Orient of Washington has partnered with Washington Masonic Services to provide donated medical equipment to Masons, their families, and members. The number TRKI was 253-442-2505 or 844-288-3531. Their proven ability to respond to the needs of our Masonic family makes them the ideal organization to coordinate this disaster relief effort as well. Please continue to keep all those affected, including our brethren and their families, first responders, and the many volunteers, in your thoughts and prayers. As additional information becomes available, I will keep you informed. Thank you for your continued compassion, generosity, and steadfast commitment to caring for one another. It is during times like these that the true strength of our fraternity is most clearly demonstrated. Fraternally, Roger Nelson, Deputy of the Supreme Council, Orient of Washington. It is, just like it's easier to tear down buildings than build them, right? The Yo Maple, thankfully, and I'm grateful for this, I've never experienced a wildfire personally, but it's very scary, absolutely, to consider if it's, the possibility of ever being in a wildfire. So I wanted to talk about the the good that Freemasonry does. I want to talk about it in three kind of stages or steps. The first is the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing. The second is the good that Freemasonry chooses to do. Um, Google, talk to the police if there's noise complaints or probably bylaws. And third, um, the good that Freemasonry chooses not to do, which is kind of a criticism of it. But I do want to start with a preface or prefacing that, right? Again, ultimately, for all of these things, it all comes down to the membership and how well they're willing to work. I've used this example before. Imagine you are a member of a gym. At the end of the day, the gym will do no good to you personally if you never show up and never exercise and never put in any work to get physically fit. The goodness of your gym membership depends on how hard and how well you're willing to work. So a lot of this does come down to Freemasons and what the Freemasons are willing to put into their Masonic journey and their Masonic career and Masonic commitments. However, even with that in mind, simply because Freemasonry exists, it does good things for the community, it does good things for the world, and it does good things for the members. And this is true even if Freemasons did nothing more than hold a meeting once a month, discuss the bills that need to be paid and the dues, hold one initiation per year, and then go about their merry day. Basically, if the Freemasons did the bare minimum and chose to do nothing extra, Freemasonry would still do a lot of good. It does a lot of good by just existing. And I want to talk about a few of those things now. First, I've talked about this before. Freemasonry reduces the vulnerabilities that criminals, specifically human traffickers, abusers, and scam artists or fraudsters, it reduces the vulnerabilities used by those criminals when committing crimes against individuals and against the community because it reduces isolation, right? The main way that a human trafficker, a fraudster, a scam artist will, one of the main tools at their disposal is isolation. Also for abusers, for that matter. They will attempt to isolate the victims from everybody around them. One of the things you most often hear a scam artist say to the victim as they're scamming them, don't talk to the police, don't talk to the bank, don't talk to your friends, don't talk to your family, right? They will try to scam them, and especially if it's an ongoing scam. Unfortunately, there are some scams, right, especially love scams, where you're pretending to be someone who's interested in the other person romantically. Those can last years and years and years of paying for somebody to be, you're sending money to somebody, you think they're in love with you, they're telling you they're in love with you, you never met them or talked to them. Human trafficking, taking somebody and making them work in unsafe environments, for example. That can go on for years and years and years as well. And one of the things you often see is the criminals, the traffickers, the fraudsters, the scam artists will always tell the victims, don't talk to somebody about this. Don't talk to anybody about this. Don't listen to anybody about this. This is between you and me type of thing. Because Freemasonry exists, there is a set upon time where the membership will feel, at least for a couple hours a month during a meeting, not isolated. They will go to a lodge meeting. They will talk to people. People will see them. If they're struggling under the weight of, let's say, they're being trafficked to unsafe work environments, let's say they're being scammed or defrauded, let's say there's abuse happening some way, people may notice that they seem to be struggling, that they seem to be not looking good, not feeling good, they're acting despondent and sad, and can talk to them. Hey, what's going on? Do you need help? What's happening? Now, the Mason may choose to stop going to Masonic meetings if the criminal has enough of a hold on them, or who knows. But at least there's an opportunity to be less isolated. And also, before the potential fraud, before the potential victimization, you're part of a group, which means you're not isolated, which means you're less likely to be a victim, right? It's not simply that a criminal, like a human trafficker, or a scam artist, will try to isolate an individual to become a victim. It's that the scam artist, the trafficker, the fraudster, the abuser will prey upon specifically isolated individuals already. So if there's two choices, one person who is a member of a Masonic lodge and has an active social life, and one person who isn't, the criminal will more likely target the person who's alone or isolated already, because it's then easier to get them more isolated, right? Or to keep them remained isolated, as opposed to try and get somebody who's part of a group to then, leave all those things behind. It's possible, it does happen. There's only so much we can do, but it's less likely. And also, if you're a Mason, it's not just that you're less isolated, it's that your family is less isolated. So again, no Mason likes to think this is possible, um, right? But unfortunately, you can be solidly middle class, you can have a good life, you can have good friends, your daughter can have a good life and good friends and go to a good high school, and thanks to the internet, thanks to a lot of different things, your young child, your daughter can end up the victim of trafficking. They can meet somebody online, get into a bad situation. However, again, the trafficker will try to isolate the victim. Being, if you are part of a Masonic lodge, you're going to a place you can talk about what's happening with your family, concerns about your daughter, concerns about your children, concerns about what they might be seeing on the internet. Other Masons may have similar experiences and may talk to each other about it and may know to go and seek help and seek support, right? Freemasonry, by reducing, amongst other things, isolation within communities, it reduces the vulnerabilities that criminals prey upon when victimizing an entire community. Um, and so that is one thing. It also encourages people who are Masons to achieve the hierarchy of needs, right? Which also results in reducing the vulnerabilities that criminals and human traffickers prey upon. Luigi, Masons are awesome in the dark and in the light. We are just awesome altogether. Right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological theory by Maslow stating that human motivations progress through 5 basic tiers: physiological, safety, and love belonging needs. At the most basic, or the physical needs, you need food, you need water, you need air, you need sleep, and you need warmth. But then you need to feel safe. You need to feel love and belonging through friendships, family. You need to feel like you have esteem and self-worth and self-actualization. Many times, scam artists, fraudsters, traffickers will prey upon a vulnerability created by not having one of these needs met, especially the third one. Many traffickers, many scam artists, especially scam artists who use romantic scams, where, join my group, you'll be a friend, I love you, whatever it is. They will prey on people who are not having their belonging needs met, who don't feel like they have friendships, who don't feel like they have connections, who don't feel like they have support, who feel alone, who feel isolated. They will prey upon those people. So if you are a Freemason, you are more likely to have, at least to a certain extent, that need met. It's another vulnerability that a human trafficker, that a scam artist, that a criminal cannot exploit. Um, and that doesn't just help the Masons themselves, it helps the whole community, right? Every time a human trafficker, every time a criminal is able to get another victim, that doesn't just hurt that victim, that helps the whole community. Because the money that they're getting, the support that they're getting from the victimization, right? Let's say, for example, They are scamming somebody, and that person, that victim, is giving them hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars per year for as long as the scam lasts. That money is then used to scam others in the community, right? Every victim then provides the funding and the resources that they need to scam dozens, if not more people. Especially with the internet, you can have hundreds of scams running at the same time. So every time Freemasonry reduces the vulnerabilities that can be preyed upon by a criminal and thereby makes it less likely for a criminal to find a victim, you end up helping the entire community by reducing a income source for those criminals. Yes, this channel is about Freemasonry. Dutch, please hit like and subscribe. As Gui says, please be safe. It can be an excuse to wear a nice suit, namaste. But again, wearing a nice suit and having an excuse to wear a nice suit actually does help fulfill Maslow's hierarchy of needs, particularly the esteem needs, self-respect, achievement status, and recognition from others. And the fact that you are achieving that need, or you are reaching that, you're fulfilling that esteem need, what that means, amongst other things, is you are less likely to be a potential victim. You could still be, you need to be on guard and careful and not get too arrogant and think it can't happen to me, because that's when you're more at risk. But certainly because you wear a nice suit and you feel good wearing it and it helps your self-esteem, you definitely are reducing the vulnerabilities that can be preyed upon by scam artists, for example. Hello, Demiro. I'm talking about the good that Freemasonry does right now simply by existing. And one of those goods is it reduces the vulnerabilities that are used and exploited by criminals to harm our entire community. Second, the good that Freemasonry does by simply existing, all the evidence shows that being part of a group or an organization, a good group or organization like Freemasonry, it causes people to be both physically and mentally healthier and to live longer. A recent study showed that Masons in Texas, on average, live 10 additional years to non-Masons. The Surgeon General of the United States in 2023 put out a report talking about the epidemic of loneliness and why being part of a social club or a social group was actually so vital for your mental and physical health and for your long-lasting physical health. Several studies have shown that the memorization work that goes into Freemasonry, not simply the memorization work of memorizing rituals and ceremonies, memorizing how to move in a lodge, memorizing the names of your brethren, their titles, their ranks, learning how to run a meeting properly, memorizing the rules of organizing a meeting. Doing all of those things, even if you do nothing else but the mandatory and the basic, doing all of those things results in not just living longer, but living longer in a more independent, healthy, and safe way. For example, what they found in a couple of studies, and I talked about this before, people who engage in memorization and cognitive work similar to that which you find in Freemasonry, they studied them, who engage in this work regularly at like 10-year intervals, compared to people who didn't. So they took a group of people, half of them were engaged in regular memorization work and regular memory training and cognitive puzzles and cognitive exercises, and half weren't. The people who were engaged in cognitive exercises, problem solving, memorization, like what you find in Freemasonry, memorization of ritual, how to move in a lodge, how to, remembering ranks and offices. After a 10-year period, not only were these people better at activities of daily living, meaning they had an easier time creating grocery lists, balancing checkbooks, engaging with neighbors, remembering their medications. They also had an easier and better time with physical tasks, like moving from sitting to standing, getting into a bed, using the shower, all these type of things. This was a study done on older people or elderly people. But the point is, simply by doing the bare minimum required within Freemasonry, memorizing work, showing up, and remembering how to properly run and organize a meeting, if nothing else, you are ensuring that you as the individual will have a better chance or will be more likely to not simply live longer, but to live longer in an independent and healthy manner, to have an easier time with activities of daily living, such as balancing checkbooks, grocery lists, medication, and also the physical tasks of daily living, like transitioning from sitting to standing, getting into a bed, showering, things like that. And again, not only does that help the individual Mason, that helps the entire community, because every Mason who does not need to use a rest home or a care home, or does not need to use it, as soon as others, that means that's one more space that is available to to a member of the community who needs that rest home space. That's less resources that need to go to one person, which means it's resources that can go to another. I truly think that one of our responsibilities as a Freemason is to keep ourselves healthy, fit, and active, not simply because it's good for us, but because the healthier I am, the less likely I am to need a hospital, and the less likely I am to need a hospital. What that means is it's more likely that other people, if I go to the hospital because I'm suffering from a disease that I could have prevented by regular exercise, and somebody else goes to the hospital at the same time for a disease that could not have been prevented, I am now taking resources that could have gone to the person who could not have prevented their disease. Every minute I spend in the hospital is a minute of doctor's time, as well as the resources of the equipment and the medicine that perhaps could have gone to somebody else if I'd chosen, better. In the same way, every time every time a Freemason, it does not need to use a rest home, it does not need specialized care and specialized services, it frees up those services for other people who do need them. So again, if you go to a hospital and it's not overflowing and the doctors have time to treat you properly and have time to deal with you, it's worth thanking, Freemasons who, through our existence, are keeping people healthier for longer and not requiring them to use hospitals. Um, Fasting can be healthy. Fasting can be not healthy. I guess what I'd say is talk to a doctor if you're thinking of fasting. Um, Dutch, they do not. A lot of what people think are Masonic symbols are not Masonic symbols at all. Um, the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing is also, and again, this is if Freemasonry did nothing else but the bare minimum, is also the preservation of historical records, documents, and traditions, right? Freemasonry, you can pick different dates and years that it started. We'll say for the purposes of this discussion, Freemasonry started in 1717 with the, at that time, Premier Grand Lodge of England. So Freemasonry is over 300 years old. Lodges are over 300 years old, which means many Masonic lodges have records and documents that have existed for over 300 years. They have their minutes, they have their register. Those documents are not simply important for Freemasonry. They're a window into the past, to the demographics of the past, to the socioeconomic status of people in the past, to the way that, the types of professions people had, the types of concerns people had, the meetings that people had, and what they discussed, the cost of living and inflation. How much did it cost to be a Mason in 1717 versus today? If we, if Freemasonry stopped existing, all of those records would be lost. Now, hopefully, if Freemasonry stopped existing, lodges would get together beforehand and donate all of those records to a local library or local historical society. But there's no guarantee that would happen. those records could just be lost forever to, lack of care, lack of concern, lack of people keeping them up and keeping them running properly. All of those things would be lost. So Freemasonry creates and maintains tradition and records that can be used, and many historians have used them in the past. Um, right? That is incredibly important. Ian, I mean, I hope most people think like that. Freemasonry is just one way to reinforce that thought, but it's not the only way or exclusive way. Most people recognize that practice is important, but I would argue that football players probably recognize it's even more important than, say, non football players, because practice is part of being a football player, as one such example. Um, I don't know what a big mouth character is, but thank you. Please hit like and subscribe. Then there is the good that Freemasonry chooses to do, which I want to talk about as well. So, when it comes to the good that Freemasonry does versus the good that Freemasonry chooses to do, a lot of lodges engage in things like this. So it is a choice a lot of lodges make, but it is not something that Freemasonry, quote unquote, has to do, right? It's something that Freemasons very often choose to do. Now, I think that's a really beautiful thing and a really wonderful thing about Freemasonry is these things that it chooses to do, not because it has to, but because it wants to, because we as Freemasons are charitable and we want to help the people around us. I'm just wiping off my screen because it got dirty. So first is benevolence. There is no requirement. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Let me think about the best way to put this. Certainly we within Freemasonry are encouraged to be charity. What that charity looks like is going to be different. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors. But very often, many Masonic lodges will have what's called benevolence committees and benevolence chairpersons. And they are responsible if a brother needs assistance, needs help. Let's say he can't pay his rent, can't pay his mortgage, whatever it might be, to approach the lodge, express what's happened, and ask for assistance with those things. Now, the lodge may not be able to afford it. It depends on a lot of factors. But if the lodge can, and very often the lodge will, help the brother by providing him financial assistance to pay for his rent, his or his mortgage. I've known at least 3 Masons who would have been homeless were it not for the Freemasons stepping in and providing him with benevolence and assistance. And not only does it help that brother, but it helps their entire family, right? Because it's not just them that could end up homeless or on the street. And it also helps the entire community as a whole. I'm trying to pull something up here quickly. What have I said that's not true? Person whose name I can't pronounce. Right? So, for example, if somebody ends up homeless, ends up on the street, they are more likely, I mean, it's not just them. Again, that affects the entire community. That's one more person who needs to use shelter space. That's one more person who needs to use a shelter space, needs to use a food bank, needs to use social assistance and social services. By Freemasons and Freemasonry stepping in and providing benevolence and keeping somebody in their home, you are ultimately ensuring not just that they have a better life and quality of living, but that the entire community benefits from it. There is disaster relief efforts. Many Freemasons are engaged in disaster relief efforts, or Freemasonry as a whole. Again, it's not something that has to happen or that Freemasonry has to do, but it is something that many Freemasons choose to engage in. Create and form Masonic relief efforts, disaster relief efforts, as well as Masonic charitable foundations. Washington Masonic Services. I want to read this one more time, for example, because I read this before. But look at the recent forest fires in Spokane. Spokane complex fires, right? The recent Spokane fires impacted our Masonic families, communities, and first responders across our state. Our hearts are with everyone facing uncertainty during this difficult time. If you'd like to support relief efforts, you can make a donation to the Washington Masonic Services Disaster Relief Fund. Any contribution, no matter the size, helps provide assistance when it's needed most. If you or someone you know has been affected by the Spokane complex fires and needs support, please don't hesitate to contact us. Shaq is a Freemason, yes. We're here to help. Also, the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite in Washington, assisting brethren who are struggling. During the fires in Los Angeles, during the flooding in Texas, during I'm trying to think of other disasters, during the earthquakes in, I believe it was in Asia, many Masonic lodges and groups stepped up and collected donations and then contributed those donations to those in need, both Masons and non-Masons. Actually, a great example is after 9/11, the Freemasons of New York provided collected donations from Freemasons really all around the world and ended up, I think, setting a record for donations received, which was given out to first responders, both Masons and non-Masonic first responders, or if, unfortunately and sadly, the first responder lost his life, given out to the families of the first responders. Namaste. I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges, but my mother lodge is Windsor Lodge number 403. Then you have, for example, the Masonic Charities Foundation out of the Grand Lodge of England, MCF. Here it is, Masonic Charitable Foundation, which I'm just going to get some of the stats here. Here's going to go to the Facebook page. By the way, you can sign up for their mailing list. Shaq was made a Mason on site, interestingly enough. So let's go through some of this. Over the last 10 years, the Masonic Charitable Foundation, the Freemasons charity on Facebook, awarded an average of £50,000 per day in grants. Some of those examples, I'm going to go through some of them now. Hello in Greece. Thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. Here it is. So these are some of their announcements. They awarded £60,000 to Curo in support of social and life skills-based activities for almost 200 children, young people, and adults with disabilities. They awarded £60,000 to Baby Zone in support of Baby Zone Hub in Grimsby, which runs drop-in evidence-informed sessions for 0 to 5-year-olds and their families. They awarded £15,000 to Mahadevi Yoga Center in support of children with special educational needs and disabilities. They gave $1.8 million to support children in their early years, ages 0 to 5. Since 2016, they have given over £60 million in grants to charities supporting local communities. And that's just the major work from this major organization. Many Masonic lodges, amongst other things, engage in charitable efforts locally. For example, 3 days ago, I volunteered with Hesperia Lodge out of Chicago. They, amongst other things, the first Friday of every month, they assist at a local church creating grocery bags filled with groceries and necessities, which are given out to those who are homeless or otherwise low income and struggling. A lot of older people actually picked up bags. older people who are on a fixed income and can't afford groceries and necessities. Um, Morton Grove Lodge in Glenview did a food bank drive where I mean, it must have been 50, 60 boxes of food and toiletries and necessities, which they gave to the Northfield Township Food Pantry. Here in Windsor, Masonic Lodges volunteer with the Salvation Army. Masonic Lodges volunteer with the local mission, serving meals to those who are homeless or those who are struggling. Again, that is not something that Freemasons have to do. Um, However, Freemasonry very often does that. In fact, the fact that Freemasonry doesn't have to do that but chooses to do that, when it already does so much good simply by existing, to do all the good of existing and then beyond that, to do extra good by choice to help the community, I think is something we should celebrate. Namaste. Um, yeah, I don't know what that name was. Unfortunately, he just is a cranky dude. Doesn't know what he's talking about, but it's okay. You get used to people being wrong. If everybody, I've said it before, if everybody had to be right to be on the internet, no one would be on the internet. Or it'd be three guys. It'd be me, you, and Namaste. So, Mort, before I go back to this discussion, Mort, so Freemasonry is not global in the sense that there is no single governing body controlling Freemasonry or, setting standards. There are different jurisdictions, but as a general rule, every jurisdiction has a very similar process for joining. Ritual is different. Even the ritual between the United Kingdom and Canada and Ontario is different. And between Ontario, let's say, and Texas is different as well. Freemasonry is jurisdictional. There is no single governing body controlling Freemasonry. The relationship is based on recognition and regularity. By the way, I did want to mention, I should have mentioned this before, the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing. The good that Freemasonry simply does by existing, one more good it does is economic good. To be a to attend a Masonic meeting, after the meeting, you're expected to have dinner, refreshments, food, sometimes before the meeting, but there's expected to be a meal and refreshments afterwards. You have to pay for that meal. That could mean ordering in from a restaurant and catering the meal. That could mean the junior warden, the person who's responsible for providing the food. That could mean that the junior warden buys ingredients and makes a meal himself, makes a stew, whatever it might be. Either way, that is economically valuable to the community. You're paying for a dinner, you're paying for a meal, you're paying for a restaurant, you're paying for you're paying for the ingredients, you're going to the store and buying the ingredients. Either way, there's an economic benefit to the community by having people purchasing the food and refreshments that you need to put on a dinner afterwards. And I've known many businesses and companies that were for a time reliant upon Masonic lodges to kind of pay the bills, especially during the pandemic, when a lot of Masonic lodges would have some type of, like, I remember during the pandemic in Windsor, I organized a virtual beer and cheese tasting. We created these packages and these kits from a local brewery that had beer and cheese, sent them to individuals' homes, and then went online and did a virtual tasting using the beer and cheese kits, which we paid for from the restaurant and the brewery. I mean, during the pandemic, that was a huge deal for them because otherwise, like, they were not getting a lot of revenue otherwise. So also every Grand Lodge jurisdiction is required to have at least once a year an annual communication in Ontario that normally takes place in Toronto. But economically, for that community, for that city, it's a full hotel, it's full restaurants. It's people traveling into the area from across the province, the country, and the world. The entire city or town benefits economically from the annual communication taking place. And that's not including any visitation that's done, any travel that's done to different Masonic lodges. When I travel from Windsor to Glenview, Illinois to visit my Masonic brethren, I'm staying in a hotel, I'm going to a restaurant, I'm buying snacks, I'm shopping, I'm purchasing tickets on the Greyhound. All of these things are helping the local economy and helping economically. And that economic help would exist whether that economic good exists so long as Freemasonry exists. Um, again, and with the terms of the good that Freemasonry chooses to do, we within Freemasonry can choose to even grow that economic impact by using local restaurants, using newer restaurants that are just starting out to get them some assistance, by holding additional events, by inviting brethren from around the world to join us at our meetings, all of which encourages and improves the economic good done by Freemasonry. Um, Assuming they join between age of 18 and 21, I mean, who knows? They just are what they are. They could also be clandestine. They could think they're a Mason, but not, right? Should guns be legal in the U.S.? That's a political question. We within Freemasonry do not discuss politics or religion in a Masonic lodge. That's the last thing I'll say about the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing. It sets an example for the community. It's really unfortunate that we live in a time when, and again, it's incredibly sad, when so many Freemasons, or so many people, excuse me, ask me on this chat, how can somebody who is a Muslim sit next to someone who is Jewish and sit next to someone who is Christian? How can a Republican and a Democrat sit in the same, lodge building, whatever it might be? Just the fact that Freemasonry exists shows to the larger community that it is possible to work with people of different faiths, different religions, different ethnicities, different politics, different jobs, right? And that example, I think, permeates our community, right? It creates a better civic and civil structure. In the same way, I think one of my favorite movies is Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln is talking in that movie near the end, and he says, if we achieve nothing else but demonstrating to the world at large that even after we go through this great civil war and all of the feelings that come from these, a civil war, we can still come out the other side and have a democracy that works. That is valuable in and of itself for the example it provides to the world. And I think that's true of Freemasonry as well. I think being able to point people to Freemasonry and say, there is this organization called Freemasonry, people of different faiths, backgrounds, and beliefs all getting together and enjoying and working towards a common goal. I think that just that existing matters. It's a thing of beauty, and beauty is good, even if it does nothing else but exist, right? It's like a painting. Why is a painting good? Maybe just because it's beautiful. Maybe that's enough. The third thing, though, and this is a quote from Voltaire, um, the third type of good is all the good that Freemasonry is guilty of not doing. Um, there is no daily activity to be a third. I mean, I'm not a 33rd degree Mason, but whether you're a 33rd degree Mason or a third degree Mason, your daily activity is to make a daily advancement in Masonic knowledge. Voltaire, who was a Freemason, he actually joined Freemasonry 1 month before his death. He famously said, "We are responsible for all the good we did not do." At least I think that was Voltaire. There are, and this is where we're going to put Freemasonry on blast a little bit, a lot of things that Freemasonry could do or that Freemasons could do, but are choosing not to do. There's good that is being, for lack of a better term, left on the table. And I think that we as Freemasons need to think about and consider what areas of good are we not fulfilling as much as we could. One example, every secretary, every master should probably have a list of community resources, including 988, including numbers for like the human trafficking hotline, that they can give to people if they have any concerns or fears as to their mental health or well-being. I've unfortunately known brothers who have taken their own life. Um, and part of that, yes, we in Freemasonry can't do everything. Uh, we can do the best we can, but it is important that I think we as Freemasons do our best to have resources available, have resources on hand, and give resources to people who we think may need them. Yeah, I'd rather give somebody a number for a self-harm or self-harm hotline. I'd rather do that and they turns out they're okay than not do it and it turns out that they actually were considering hurting themselves, right? Yes, they are an appendant body. Um, so that's a really important thing. I think we in Freemasonry, our secretaries, our treasurers, our masters, need to have a list of resources available at all times and give them to brothers if they are struggling in any way. I think we in Freemasonry need to do a much better job at supporting our communities, not just in the like we already do it. Again, I talked about the economic benefits of Freemasonry to our communities, but we need to do more. Whenever there's a celebration, a public event, a special event, we as Freemasons should be there celebrating that community. That does good by creating a sense of civic and community pride, which only strengthens the entire community. I think we in Freemasonry need to do a better job at keeping track of our members who move away, who get sick or ill. And also, I think you or we as individual Freemasons need to do a better job at communicating regularly with our lodge as to how we're doing in our life. We need to do within Freemasonry a better job at having proper and adequate training on things like first aid, psychological first aid, food handler safety, and safe serve. We need to be willing to involve ourselves and try to solve community ills. So, for example, Masonic lodges should be regularly inviting, for example, the local police forces, local fire, to come to lodge and do presentations on challenges facing communities, right? It could be scams that are currently going around in the community and how to deal with them. It could be human trafficking, like I've talked about, and what to look for. Because again, we may think Freemasonry, a bunch of old dudes, who really cares? Um, Bunch of old dudes. How can they be trafficked? Well, they absolutely. I mean, maybe they're not at risk of being trafficked, but they could have daughters or granddaughters who are at risk of being trafficked. They could have friends who are at risk of being trafficked. They could know people who are at risk of being trafficked. If we take a few moments to have a presentation at the Masonic Lodge with the police about what to look out for, the risks of human trafficking, how these things can happen, maybe a father will pay more attention to who his daughter is talking to online or his granddaughter. Maybe we'll pay more attention to what our friends are up to. And we can have that presentation and we can invite members of the community as well. Right? I think this idea that sometimes exists that Freemasonry should not concern itself with societal ills, I think one of the dangers of that ultimately is it makes us less relevant. If society is struggling and we in Freemasonry can provide information or solutions to those struggles, to those ills, I think it benefits everybody, including Freemasonry. So, more presentations with police, with fire, with authorities about the challenges and the problems that are being faced in the community and what we can do and what we can be on the lookout for. Thank you for the gift membership, Real J Dog. I'm incredibly, grateful for that. And honestly, the police will be happy to do that, and the police will want to do that. At least in my experience. When you have firefighters, same thing. Do a presentation, and it can be, yes, about, you know, being safe at the Masonic Lodge and how to make sure the Masonic Lodge is as safe as possible, and fire codes, etc., but also in your day-to-day life. We have a lot of Masons who live alone, a lot of Masons who are older. How to make sure for older Masons, their apartments, their homes are safe. What to do if, let's say, they are, like I'm disabled, I live on the 11th floor of my building. If there's a fire and I can't use the elevator, how do I make sure the fire department knows where I am and to come and rescue me? Um, have dietitians in, have presentations from dietitians and doctors about eating healthy, exercising regularly. Do regular exercises in lodge and make sure after the meeting you have healthy food. Again, we talked about before, even if all things being equal, if Freemasonry did nothing um, other than the most basic stuff, it would already improve people's health and people's well-being and help them live longer, happier, and healthier lives. However, by the same token, um, we can do more. We can make sure after meetings there is healthy options available, fruits, vegetables, healthy food. We can ensure that we bring in presentations from doctors and dietitians about how to stay healthy and how to age as healthy as possible. We can start our meetings with, low impact exercises, stretching, things to get us moving, things to help calm us down a little bit, right? All of them, again, it's things we can do on top of what is already being done to improve the health and well-being for our membership, which ultimately improves the health and well-being of the entire community at large. Um, so all of that stuff, I think, is incredibly important and matters a great deal. And that's something that unfortunately I don't think we're doing enough of in Freemasonry. Very often we're not ensuring there's healthy food after a meeting. We're not starting meeting with general exercises. Um, and we are not, we're not bringing in people to talk about how to remain healthy for longer. Even if we don't do any of that, we're already like at this level of helping people and helping people be healthy, but we're not doing enough to get it to this level or even this level. And I think we can. I think we should. Um, yes, Yo Maple, that is absolutely true. The question is how many people do that? And if they're not, what can we as Freemasons do to ensure that our membership is doing that? Um, we should be doing more to connect with local artists within our communities, right? That's another huge issue that we're facing. Most Masonic buildings, in my experience, have space on the walls, have space on shelves that's not being used. Why not take a few minutes and invite, a local artist to display their work at the building? You can get them to sign something for permission, whatever it is. Maybe they want to try to sell it, maybe they don't. But if you have a building that's in use even a couple times a week, even if it's just with Masons, it gives the Masons a local artist's work to look at, which they'll appreciate. And at the same time, it will, well, it will do that. What it will also do is give the artist some local exposure, which very often is incredibly important for a local artist, a painter. At the Windsor Masonic Temple, I'm really proud of the work that we do, inviting in painters and artists into the building. But we could do more, and we should be looking at doing more and inviting more artists um, into our spaces. My favorite snack, chips. I like chips a lot. So again, going back to what I was saying before, I'll just go through this one more time. There's the good that Freemasonry does simply by existing. There's the good that Freemasonry chooses to do. And then there's the good that Freemasonry is guilty of not doing. Now, I'm not speaking for every lodge or about every lodge, obviously. This is just a general statement about things I don't think we're doing enough of in Freemasonry. Basically, we're leaving good on the table. And to go through the list very quickly, I think one good that we're failing to do is we are not equipping our secretaries, our masters, and our senior officers with the information, with the local resources, hotlines, and information necessary to give to a brother if they're struggling, such as self harm hotlines, um, human trafficking hotlines, numbers to call if someone is struggling in their home with something, emergency numbers to contact, non emergency numbers to contact. We should, our lodges should be equipped with those numbers so if any brethren are struggling, we can give them a resource to try to assist them and help them. Inviting police, fire, doctors, and other civic and community groups into your building to make presentations on the ills facing the community and what we can do as Freemasons and as members of that community to help. What to watch out for, do a presentation on what to look out for with human trafficking. So if a brother is concerned, his child, his grandchild, his friend may be at risk, they know the signs to look out for and who to contact. Um, how to create a proper safety fire plan, not just for your building, but for your home, especially if you're older. How to stay healthy longer. Bring in a dietitian to talk about the best type of foods to eat, or a occupational therapist to talk about things in your home that you can set up if you're older to keep you safe. Um, I don't think we're inviting enough of those groups into our buildings, and I think ultimately what it means is we're not as equipped as we can be or should be to help combat our community and social ills. Start your meetings with regular exercise. Even light stretching is going to have a major impact. Yes, the British word for potato chip is a crisp. Um, I'm drinking a lot of water right here, I promise. Directly taken from the words of a seasoned firefighter. Not enough people have an escape plan. If they did, more people would make it out. I wish they taught it in schools. So again, imagine Yo Maple. I can't control what happens in schools. I can't even control what happens in most Masonic lodges, but I can control or encourage what happens in mine. Well, imagine if we had a firefighter come in and make a presentation on having an escape plan and talking about why it's so important. Um, it's a little thing, but it might make a big difference. Um, we should, within our lodges, focus on inviting people to our lodges regularly, including making a trip from, a faraway place, thereby helping the local economy. That's a good that we leave on the table. Very often, if we're having a big event or a big celebration, we'll invite people out. But what if we're having just, a regular meeting? It doesn't mean we can't still have guests. It doesn't mean we can't still have visitors. And in the process of having those visitors and those guests, we're improving the economy for the town. Maybe they'll stop at a restaurant. Are we doing enough? And this is a huge good that we're leaving off the table. When we're having, for example, our annual communications, are we taking a few moments to celebrate where the annual communication is taking place? In my opinion, everybody who visits a annual communication, visits a Masonic conference or Masonic event, should receive a pamphlet or a flyer from the local tourism industry or tourism board, um, showcasing the city or town or community in which they're meeting. What are the really cool things there to find and check out? It's a little thing, but to the restaurant that gets additional business because the Masonic lodge, the Masonic body talked it up and gave a pamphlet about it, to the attraction that gets the extra business, to the hotel that gets filled, and all the workers who get the tips and the benefits from it. It's a really big deal. And it's not that hard to do. In my experience, most local communities, their tourism board is more than happy to give out information completely for free um, about their local community. You can get 100, 200 pamphlets or flyers and hand them out. It's a little thing, but it matters a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm missing. I'm sure you guys can think of some goods that some good that Freemasonry could be doing that isn't. Good that you'd like to see Freemasonry do more of. Um, right? And all right, we will. So Mr. Waffen X is wrong, and he's not a good person. But we're gonna see if he can calm down a little bit. Um, I might be Jewish, I might not be Jewish. It's irrelevant to being a Freemason. Yo Maple, I think they would as well, and I think it's a shame we don't do more invitations. I'm really proud of the invitations I've given out to community services. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. Um, is the fact that I've invited out police and fire and everybody else to come visit, and I'm grateful for that. Truly. I think more lodges should do it. So I think what'll end, and I hope that this made sense. Namaste. Let me know, Yo Maple. Let me know if this made sense, what I was saying, and if it sounded good. I think we in Freemasonry should first of all be grateful for all of the good that Freemasonry does simply because it exists, without a doubt. I think we should be proud of all the good Freemasonry does because of the work we put in. Um, and that we choose to do. And then I think we should recognize and admit that Freemasonry is not doing all of the good that it could be doing, and we should put time and effort and create plans into doing better work and doing more good. Having said that, I also want to be honest. There's just so much we can do. I'm not suggesting that if Freemasonry does every single thing it possibly could, that will result in a perfect world or perfect communities or even perfect Masons. People will always face challenges, and some people, no matter how much we try, I have known Masons like this and non-Masons as well. We give them as much support as we possibly can. We try to offer them as much help as we possibly can. And it just, for whatever reason, they end up going in a bad direction with substance use, with mental health, with physical health. So be it, right? But at least I can look in the mirror and say we did our best and tried our best. And that is something I take a great deal of pride in. We can always do better. That is very true. Um, I absolutely agree with that. We are not stealing the Declaration of Independence. But I'm also think we should not let our we should not let the fact that we can always do better um, distract us from the pride we should feel at the things we choose to do better, or the things we choose to do good, or the gratefulness we should feel for the good that Freemasonry already does. Um, I mean, your substance abuse may have put you in an amazing spot to help others if you've now recovered and are, leading a better life. If you're currently in the throes of substance abuse, I would say maybe you need to focus on yourself first as much as possible. Favorite music genre? Probably rock and roll. I really love 80s hair metal, but I love all music. Music is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy, at least in my humble opinion. Yes, all phonics, we should use our tools to perfect our rough ashlar and potentially try to help others as well with their rough ashlar, recognizing that at the end of the day, they have to do it themselves too. We can just do so much. Another good that Freemasonry does, and this is really important for me to bring up, is through the creation and the funding and support of the Masonic Medical Research Institute in Utica, New York. And I'm going to be doing a 24-hour live stream or 24-hour content marathon, I should say, on August 21st to August 22nd. And one of the things we're going to be talking about and celebrating is the Masonic Medical Research Institute. I'm going to have Masons from the Institute talking about it and celebrating it, talking about all the good that it does. I'm a MMRI ambassador, and half or 50% of all the revenues from that 24-hour stream will go and be donated to the Masonic Medical Research Institute to allow it to continue its research on things such as autism, um, health, heart health, lupus as well, autoimmune diseases. It researches in a variety of different areas and it's doing incredible work, and I can't wait to support it. Um, I agree. And namaste, good for you for being recovering. I mean, going through substance use is really hard. By the same token, being in recovery is something to be really proud of. I know it's probably really hard to go through it to get to recovery phase, but now you're in there. So keep up the good work and be proud of yourself for the things you've achieved. So yeah, we're celebrating the Masonic Medical Research Institute from the 21st to the 22nd. Also, um, tomorrow, August 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be having Dewan Hanna join. He is a Mason. He is also organizing the um, local Windsor Hip Hop Festival. I was there last year. I loved it. I can't wait to be back this year. Just in the morning for a little bit. But I want to talk to him about how he's doing and how much he's enjoying it and why he, as a Freemason, thinks it's so important to assist and organize events like this and all the hard work that goes into it. So that's going to be really cool as well. A lot of people, I think, find that by helping others, they're able to feel better themselves and they're able to have more success in their recovery. So yeah, that's really cool. Oops. And another thing I just discovered is another thing I just discovered is hmm, my favorite part is helping. Oh yeah, another thing I just discovered I wanted to mention is tomorrow the Gordie Howe Bridge footpath pedestrian pathway is opening. Um, I'm very excited about that as someone who loves to travel, travels to the States all the time. A new way to travel from Canada to the US, especially one that is completely free, that really does excite me quite a bit. I am going to be seeing about possibly traveling across that footbridge tomorrow morning. If I can, or pedestrian path crosswalk, I'll definitely leave some photos and videos from the trip because I think it's incredible. To be a Freemason is to be a traveler. And we just have another way to travel between US and Canada, another way that is completely free. I think that's awesome and incredible. I'm going to see if I can do it in the morning. I have to do my 1 p.m. stream still, but maybe I can do it first thing in the morning. We'll see. I think it'd be pretty incredible though. Yes, after years and delays and all the rest of it, I'm very happy to see. I'm very happy and very grateful to see that opening. Might be kind of fun to do a stream from the bridge. Maybe at the halfway point, I'll do a stream from the bridge or a YouTube short as well. No more canoeing across, indeed. I would very much like to not canoe across because canoeing is very challenging. It's kind of a pain, it's a lot of work. I do too. I think every Freemason, to a certain extent, has a traveler's heart. And if you don't, I do think you're missing out. And it's not my place to tell anybody what their masonry should or shouldn't be, but you're missing out on a lot if you are not traveling regularly. It's the best part about being a Freemason, in my opinion. So the whole bridge, yes, they opened up the vehicle part first, and they opened that up first. So vehicles have already been crossing, but now they've opened up the pedestrian. Actually, as of tomorrow. So I think it'd be really fun. I don't even know for sure. And actually, when I was involved in politics, I had a very small amount to do with that bridge because I was with the Conservative Party EDA, and obviously it was the Conservative government under Stephen Harper that got the funding for and organized the bridge, and picked the name out as well. And so I'm really excited for it and to see it. I was an incredibly, incredibly tiny, tiny part of truly something special. I was kind of disappointed with the end process to get us here, obviously, with with everything that kind of came with it. But I'm grateful that it's opened up. I'm grateful there's a new way to open. Um, So yeah, and I will try to cross it. I don't know if I would actually even bother crossing completely over into the States. I may just go across it and then turn around and come back. But we shall see. I mean, some Masons are literal magicians, right? Like, for example, Harry Houdini was a literal magician. So was oh my gosh, I can't think of the name now, but there's been a few magicians who were Freemasons. Um, but ceremonial magicians, I don't think so. I don't know what that means precisely. I don't believe in magic literally. Mr. Keeps on Ticking says wow. Not sure what the wow is. I mean, it was supposed to be open like 4 months ago, if I recall correctly, 3 or 4 months ago. Um, so it felt like a lot of the bluster on the side of the states and all the rest of it, I was not a fan of, obviously. But I am grateful that it's open now. However, we got to this point, we got here. Yes, it took longer than we wanted it to, but we made it. And so hopefully it stays open because I think the more ways we have to cross bridges, the better. Um, the more bridges we have, excuse me, the more pathways between Canada and the US, the better, as a traveler. Also, one that is completely free, um, I think is a really good thing as well. Well, welcome. Things are good. I mean, things go up, things go down. So I hope that you are doing well. But I'm looking forward to seeing about crossing it tomorrow. It's going to be really fun. If I can. If I can't, I'll do it another day. But as soon as I know for sure, I'll let you guys know. Still grateful that it's open once again. And it'll be fun to check out. It looks like I'm just looking at the map now. It looks like it crosses into historic Fort Wayne area. So I'm trying to think to get there, from there to, let's say, downtown. Let's see if I can do a map quickly. Pay money to open a community outdoor gym. Um, why would I do that, Morton? Not that I think there's anything wrong with gyms. I think we should be spending, more time at the gym and being healthier if we can. So it's a 12-minute drive and a 46-minute public transit ride or bus ride from the historic Fort Wayne to downtown Detroit. Um, well, especially if I ended up in the middle of the bridge and had to deal with the rainstorm. That would not be fun. That would be a pain in the butt. But that's all right. Sometimes pain in the butt is fun. Would you trade Quebec and British Columbia? No, I would keep Quebec, and I'm happy with the. I am not Brock. I'm back here in Canada. I loved Chicago though. It was a really special trip as always. So it was a blast. Being in Chicago, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Chicago is uh, in my opinion, it is the greatest city in North America. Actually, I would say the greatest city in the world. Are you to dare to do to be silent, Canada? No, let's keep PEI. From where else would we get our potatoes? For the record, I would love to do that. How is the refreshment podcast going, Brock? But we can do it virtually too. I don't mind doing an interview via Zoom. Um, you can name 20 Rammstein songs if you want. I don't know any of them. But let's hear it. What are some of these songs? Brock, the best way is through. Hold on just 1 second. Let me see if I can find it now. Do you see this link I'm putting in the, or this, I'm putting in the chat? Squareandcompass.ca/contact. That's the best way to get in touch with me. Squareandcompass.ca/contact, and then you'll find me that way. What about Tokyo and Florence? I've never been to either, but I'd like to get there at some point. So yeah, squareandcompass.ca/contact. I mean, I'd love to be on your yes, screen description. So I've never been to Tokyo or Florence, so I can't say. I guess what I'll say is of all the cities I've ever visited, Chicago is my favorite. And I visited London, Edinburgh, Ottawa, Toronto, South Africa, Cape Town, Manila, Rio, and Bogota. And then plenty of places in the States that I can't think of off the top of my head. Um, so of all the ones I've been to, Chicago is my favorite. Bag of crisps are great, otherwise known as a bag of chips. Um, so yeah, Brock, your podcast again is called the um, Refreshment Masonic Podcast, right? I think I've seen a couple episodes. I think it's pretty good. Let me just pull it up here. Yes, I am subscribed to it. I thought I was. It's got the couple martini glasses and the neon sign. Everybody should check it out. If you get the chance, check out at Refreshment MVP. It's got 1,870 something subs. But, keep following them or check them out. They've done some pretty good stuff. No worries. Send me an email or a message through the contact. Also, you can find me on my Discord. I'm trying to grow that once again as I'm trying to grow my socials once again. I'm having a lot of success lately growing my X account as well as my Instagram account. like to try to grow Discord and things like that. Even my Podbean is doing okay lately, so um, no worries. I do not know the legality of using a cast net, but I do whatever the legalities is, you should do it. I mean, I think our Great Lakes for a while were struggling with overfishing, but I also think to its credit, again, I don't want to say for sure. I'm not an expert on this, but I do think there's been a lot of successful conservation efforts um, across the Great Lakes. Even here at the Detroit River, I know there's some conservation areas which I think have done a really great job of replenishing um, not just fishing stocks, but natural species and animal stocks. So it's called At Refreshment. Yeah, Namaste. It's a good podcast. At least the episodes I've seen have been really good. Like everything, it goes up and it goes down in terms of people watching. Right? This podcast went through a really, really high period a couple of months ago, really last month. It did really, really well. Got a record number of viewers, a record number of watch hours. But one of the consequences of that is you tend to go through cooling off periods, which happens in Freemasonry as well. Usually, after a Masonic Lodge gets a significant number of new candidates, new applicants, and new members, they then start to get less and less for different reasons, and it goes up and down. What you want is overall trajectory to go up, even as you experience dips. Um, I think like everything, right? You do the best you can and you figure out how you can best solve these kind of issues, right? Even that's something Freemasonry could be involved in. Invite a local environmentalist to your lodge to discuss and talk about um, local conservation and environmental efforts. Promote recycling at your lodge and at your lodge meetings. Promote reusable energy sources. Get solar power, things like that. I didn't know tilapia. Well, I can do a split screen and invite somebody on. Doing a split screen on my phone, though, is a pain in the butt. I could do it from my laptop. I could actually share the screen from my laptop, but I think Masons could support that by funding or providing assistance to a nonprofit that does outdoor gyms. I think some do. A lot of it depends on the weather. It'd be very hard to do a outdoor gym in, let's say, Winnipeg, where 6 months of the year you're fighting freezing weather. You'd have to do the thing where you kind of get a tent or something. I've been thinking about doing that, reacting to some of these horrible videos about Freemasonry, like the Sean Ryan and Candace Owens nonsense. But I also don't want to encourage it by giving them more attention. Though having said that, I've got 6 people watching my stream. They've got thousands watching their stuff. So I don't know to what extent I'm actually platforming them, quote unquote, if you will. I think they're doing just fine on their own. But they're always going to do just fine because conspiracy and nonsense is always going to be more popular than kind of, if you wanted to say, boring but honest content. I'm not in Jerusalem. I have no idea. The weather here is very nice, I'll say that. After months of it being way too hot, I'm grateful to finally have some cool weather once again. I can tell you that. Um, it actually feels comfortable as opposed to me feeling like at any going to collapse with heat stroke. I do not like the heat at all. Well, what's your favorite Rammstein song, if you had to pick one? Have I watched the whole... Uh, I've not watched the whole Sean Ryan thing. I watched... Well, not about Masonry specifically. I watched his interview with Candace Owens, where she was talking about Charlie Kirk and the pentagram. She didn't bring up the entirety of Freemasonry. With Sean Ryan, it was, what's his name? The Catholic priest or the exorcist who talked about Masonic curses. I'm trying to think of his name now. If I could pull it down. What's the name? It's called Catholic Priest Exposes Freemasonry. It was done 4 months ago, but I'm trying to find his name. He actually has his own podcast now. Or not podcast, but he has his own YouTube channel where he talks about Masonic curses, which I looked at. If I could track it down. Dun, dun, dun. Father Ripperger. I think I pronounced that correctly. Father Chad Ripperger, Roman Catholic priest, theologian, philosopher, and exorcist. Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen enough of what he's said. One of the biggest mistakes, again, is he makes the same mistake almost everybody makes, which is he talks about the top of Freemasonry as in being the 33rd degree. He doesn't understand that it's the third degree in Freemasonry. That's the top. With, Candace Owens, this idea that Freemasonry, that, our symbol is the pentagram, which it's not. So you just see a lot of people not understanding it. Again, even with another priest that was on the Sean Ryan show, I can't remember his name. He said, the top of Freemasonry shows you the truth. Again, not understanding what the top of Freemasonry is. The third degree. He was implying it was the 33rd degree. I mean, unfortunately, I think Yo Maple, he's in the same boat as everybody else, which is, well, there you go. Mr. Keeps found it for me. Chad Ripperger. Yeah, he just did a YouTube short where he was talking about Masonic curses through the bloodline and all this stuff. And I saw the clip of him talking to Sean Ryan. It was put up by the Sean Ryan show, so I feel like I can use it pretty accurately, where he was saying, the top of Freemasonry is where you learn the truth, not understanding what the top of Freemasonry actually is, or more particularly, that there is no top of Freemasonry. The top of the Freemasonry in Ontario is the Grand Lodge of Canada in Ontario, whereas in England, it's UGLE, and in Texas, it's the Grand Lodge of Texas. It is, but unfortunately, it's very popular BS, and it's very hard to push against because what's more entertaining and interesting to people? A secret government, New World Order, anti-religious conglomerate that is cursing the people who join, and, a demon organization which priests must fight against, or a group of guys who enjoy one another's company and is trying in a variety of ways to create a better world for those around us. Yo Maple, I don't disagree with you at all on that one. Do you not understand conceptually, though, that if upper stratas are hiding knowledge? Well, that's true in the same way I cannot confirm or deny that there are invisible leprechauns in my apartment, right? At a certain point, I have to use common sense and common judgment and my senses to tell me what's happening in the world. Right? And to my knowledge, Chad is not a Freemason of any degree. He's not even a first degree Freemason. So why is his information considered more correct, right? The other thing is, again, so for example, I've been a Mason for 20 years. I've traveled around the world. I've been on the committees. So for example, I pay dues to the lodge every year. I've been on the committees that look at the finances of the lodge and how a lodge operates and runs properly. I know where my dues go and where they don't go. They don't go financially to, or in any sense, to the 33rd degree Masons, to the Supreme Council. I know who's responsible for the legislation, for the bylaws, and the constitution under which I operate, which is the Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario, which is not an organization that falls under the authority of Scottish Rite, nor has anything to do with Scottish Rite. Um, I've sat in lodge with 33rd degree Masons, and I know that they do not have any extra political power. They do not get to organize votes or run votes. They are no different than any other Mason, right? I know how the organization works and operates because I've had to, as both a secretary, a worshipful master, and a member of a variety of committees. Um, Well, there's no plausible reason to believe that the 33rd degree Masons have financial power over the lodge when I know how the lodge operates financially. There's no plausible reason to believe that the 33rd degrees have political power over a lodge when I know how a lodge operates and how a lodge runs, and the authority under which a lodge operates. There's no plausible reason to believe the 33rd degree is of a higher degree than the most worshipful Grand Master because I've seen the legislative process, right? At a certain point, you kind of have to use common sense and proper judgment. Now, there's no question, um, right? I kind of do know because I've known enough 33rds and trust them. But could it be that when, you get to the 33rd degree, I find out that in the 33rd degree, they do say they worship Satan? I mean, anything's possible. Nothing in my experience would indicate that's plausible, but anything's possible. But I would say is what I can say for sure is the 33rd degree is not the top of Freemasonry. It's not the most important degree in Freemasonry, nor does it have any more power, influence, or control over the lodge than any other rank or order in Freemasonry. The true power within Freemasonry, if I want to put it that way, stops at the third degree and, jurisdictionally stops with the most worshipful Grand Master of each individual Grand Lodge. Um, so again, DARPA, the highest you can go in Masonic terms is the third degree. That's as high as you can go. After that, it's parallel rites and it's parallel ceremonies, but it's not higher. And by the way, even the 33rd, I mean, Memphis Mizraim out of Russia, well, it's not out of Russia, but it's recognized in Russia, recognized in a lot of European and Asian countries. If I recall correctly, Memphis Mizraim has 99 degrees, right? Um, if you're the 33rd, you're no higher than a third degree. You're also no higher than Knights Templar in York Rite, or a potentate, or part of Eastern Star, or part of Demolay. Third degree is the highest degree you can go. Maybe you could argue, if you really wanted to get specific, you could say the worshipful master or installing master is the highest office in Freemasonry, or at least is the highest office of the lodge, and the most worshipful Grand Master is the highest office in Freemasonry. Um, well, again, I mean, the beliefs, sure, but I find it implausible from a belief perspective because Freemasonry is not a belief system. There is no beliefs within, at least in my experience, you know, other than kind of ethical considerations. So, like, again, if you are a football player, you will believe in hard work and practice and teamwork and sportsmanship and health, at least in theory, because those are kind of the ethics of football. There are ethics of Freemasonry: tolerance, charity, hard work, being civically minded, being a good citizen. Those are kind of the ethical parts of Freemasonry, but they're not really beliefs per se. As for the goals, I mean, I suppose what I can say there is the goal of Freemasonry in every experience I've had so far is relatively straightforward. It's to spend time with other people and to find excuses to spend time with other people. Again, I can't know for sure that within the 33rd, it's not a completely different organization I can only go based on my experiences and the 33rd, degree members I've met and spoken with and spent time with, the ones who've been to my lodge, the times when a 33rd has had one belief about, let's say, how a lodge should act, and the lodge votes him down, and the lodge goes in that direction, to say I find it highly doubtful. Um, and even if, let's say, it was the case that the 33rd degrees, which it's not based on everything I've seen, but it was the case that the 33rds had some type of special separate goal from the rest of Freemasonry, I wouldn't really care because the craft lodges are their own organization and their own order, and the 33rds have no financial, political, or any other type of control over them. Um, yeah, as Namaste says, if I wanted to know about the 33rd degree, I would join it. But I want to focus on the third degree and the craft lodges because that's what matters. That is the foundation upon which all of Freemasonry rests. If you got rid of the 33rd degree, for 99% of Freemasons, nothing would change. If you got rid of the first three degrees, Freemasonry would collapse because it is the first three degrees on which in which everything rests. Adam, blue for kind of the common blue. There's a couple different reasons why it's called Blue Lodge. I tend to treat it as blue as the symbol of Earth. Like the sky is blue, the water is Earth. It's for everybody. In Canada, the Senate is red because it was meant to represent the nobility, and blue is the House of Commons because it meant to represent the people. So blue is meant to be like of common, if not practically always, at least in theory, to be of the people, to be practical, to be for everyone. I don't disagree. I like outdoor gyms. I just don't think we in Freemasonry can be investing in outdoor gyms right now. I mean, I wouldn't say anti-clericism, because anti-clericism, that strikes me as being anti-Catholic. I mean, certainly Freemasonry, I think, defaults as a general rule to supportive of democracy or democratic ideals. Within a lodge, it's democratic. You vote on motions, you vote on your officers. Even the worshipful master, he may want the lodge to do X, but the lodge will, if the lodge votes to go direction Y, then you have to go direction Y. I mean, so it doesn't shock me that, for example, George Washington would be, and Ben Franklin would be kind of pro democracy, and maybe they got some of that pro democratic ideals from being Freemasons. But don't forget, 9 out of the 56 founding fathers were Freemasons. So the other 47 got to the same conclusions about the value of democracy and a desire to overthrow the king without being Freemasons. I don't think Freemasonry is the only place or the singular place where the ethic of democracy is kind of strong, right? I mean, democracy first came about in Greece in 510 BC, well before anything like Freemasonry existed. Um, Yo Maple, yes, Lion clubs have. I mean, and Lions is another place that has kind of those same ethics, I think, as Freemasonry. I think any civic group does, and civic groups are so incredibly important to society for a lot of the things they do. And, in fairness, there was a Masonic lodge out of Northern Ontario. I mean, I say Northern Ontario. I'm so far south. Everything is north to me. I can't think of where it's from now. Um, there was a lodge out of Northern Ontario that actually built not just an outdoor playground or funded the building of an outdoor playground, they actually funded the building of an outdoor accessible playground, meaning, they anybody and everybody can be active in it, whether you're in a wheelchair or not. So I thought that was really cool, um, and awesome to see. Gotta love the Beatles. One of the um, one of the greatest of all time. No Beatles, to my knowledge, were Freemasons, just for the record, because I'm sure some people think that is the case. If you have any trouble contacting me, by the way, just let me know. If you're sending out the email's not going through, I'll double check my email to make sure it's still working. I hope that you are doing well, and thank you all for being here. Please take a moment, once again, hit that like and subscribe button. Brock, you are welcome. I I mean, Mr. Keeps, that would be, I mean, that's, I'd have to know more of the person. Like, so for me, my grandfather was a Freemason. Both of sorry, my grandfathers were Freemasons. My dad is a Freemason. Being a Freemason makes me feel closer to them. My one grandfather passed away before I was born. So being part of that tradition and that history does make me feel closer to him, which I appreciate. There is a social safety net that you can get from it. Again, I've known three brothers who would be homeless were it not for Freemasonry stepping in and providing them with benevolence. Some people just like the way Freemasonry sounds. Like, what does listening to the song Simple Man bring me when there are literally millions of other songs, hundreds of millions of other songs I could listen to instead? For whatever reason, and at a certain point, it becomes a challenge. I like that song. I don't know why I like it. There's something about me and something about the state I was in when I heard it that it just spoke to me, and I was grateful for it. Freemasonry is no different, right? Freemasonry is no different. Not everybody will enjoy it, but some people will. Why they do? Some people like it for the skills they develop. They get skills related to things like memorization, meeting management, meeting organization, even conflict resolution. If you're the master of a lodge and two brothers are not getting along, the ability to work with them and find a resolution, it's a good skill to have and a skill that can be applicable in your job. Certainly, my suggestion is if anybody has a job where, let's say, they are going to be running board meetings or organizing, a company meeting, a company retreat, if you become the worshipful master of a lodge, or even just pay attention to a good worshipful master, you will become very good at that because a lot of what it is knowing how to properly organize emotion, how to keep a meeting on track if it starts to get, starts to go off track, how to keep topics, how to organize things. Even something as simple as knowing and understanding that true decisions don't happen in a meeting, but before a meeting, right? You don't have the meeting. You figure out what you're going to do and organize and create the agenda before the meeting starts. Creating agendas, right? So those are all things, but ultimately, if you enjoy it or not is a very personal thing. My favorite song is Simple Man. You may not like that song. I don't know. You and I may get the very same emotional and psychological benefit from two completely different things, and that's perfectly fine, and that's perfectly okay. Um, Ultimately, though, like, because you can get those professional skills from other places, you can feel connected to your family in other ways. It has to be at its core, do you like it and do you enjoy it? For whatever reason, I just enjoy Freemasonry. I enjoy the ceremonies. I enjoy the meeting of other people. I enjoy the travel. I enjoy learning about different brothers. I enjoy doing all of that in the context of Freemasonry. Um, So that's never been my understanding. I think you're confusing or getting confused with Albert Pike, and also I think you're misunderstanding the Anderson Constitutions of 1723. It doesn't say that all religions are not objectively true. What it says is it's not the place of Freemasons to speak on which is true and which is not. So what he says is um, there is a a universal religion which is to be a good man and true. Now that doesn't mean it's a religion in a spiritual sense. What that means is, so I've used the example before. I've been to scary movie conventions and I've seen people wear a t-shirt that says horror movies are my religion. He didn't mean it literally. He didn't mean that he expects to get, for example, the special tax exempt status for watching scary movies, or that he thinks that scary movies will promise him life hereafter, or, will help save his immortal soul. I don't know what he believes in that sense. He meant religion in the same way I would say I religiously wash my car or I religiously exercise. It's not literal, it's meant as something that, speaks to your heart and something that you enjoy doing and something that you do regularly. So the universal religion of being a good person and true is meant in that sense, not literally as a religion on the same level of the Catholics or the Jewish or Protestant or Hindu or Sikh, but religious in that sense. But then what Anderson went on to say is because we evolved from stonemasons, and stonemasonry, it made no sense to care if the person next to you in your job site, in your quarry, was Jewish, was Muslim, was Christian, or was any other religion. All that mattered in that job site is can the person do his job well, and can the person do his job professionally. They said we within Freemasonry should take the same approach. We're not going to care about your particular opinions and your particular ideas. They could very well be correct. They could be incorrect. We'll all find out after we die. We're going to care about are you a good man, honorable and true, and therefore a good Freemason. Just like you can be a Muslim and a good stonemason, you can be a Christian and a good stonemason, you can be Jewish and a good stonemason. In the same way, you can be Muslim and a good Freemason, Jewish and a good Freemason, Christian and a good Freemason. So long as you ultimately, fulfill that universal idea of being a good person and honorable. But at no point in any of my Masonic career have anybody told me that religions are not objectively true. It's simply been understood that we cannot know which one is true and which one is not. And by the way, again, which teachings precisely? Because what if you join York Rite? What if you join Shrine? What if you join Eastern Star? What if you join De Molay? Right? What about those teachings? Again, one of my favorite quotes from a Mason, somebody asked him about Albert Pike, and he said, well, I'm Scottish Rite, so I don't give a shit about Albert Pike. Or sorry, I'm York Rite. I don't give a shit about Albert Pike. This idea that somehow the teachings start and end with Scottish Rite is crazy and insane and not accurate. I'd like to think I'm not malicious or dumb or bad, but who knows? I guess they just decide that for themselves. Yes, as Yo Maple puts it, if you're seeking religious guidance, you should seek out a religious authority, not Freemasonry. It's misunderstanding what our purpose is. If anybody came to me and asked me, amongst other things, which religion is correct, my answer would be, I have no idea. Talk to your religious leader, priest, rabbi, whatever it might be. Because I'm not capable of saying that. I can tell you what I believe, which is, my supreme being is the rational nature of the universe. I don't believe in the supernatural, but that's my belief. I could very well be wrong. And if I am wrong, then in the next life, I guess I'll find out. But the fact that I might be right or wrong doesn't scare me. I'll put it that way. It's just a recognition that everybody needs to recognize and understand they could be incorrect about whatever they believe. It's not my place to tell others. What about the devil? What about the devil? Freemasonry has nothing to do with the devil. I never heard the devil brought up in Freemasonry, just in this stream and in this channel. Sometimes I'll swear, Eric, Bobby. It's been known to happen. To everybody watching this, if you're new to the stream, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Um, and I hope everybody watching this is doing well. I do use a wheelchair. I'm missing both of my legs. But that's all right. I get a cool wheelchair out of it, so there's worse things. I go up and down. I mean, certain things make me angry. One of the biggest things that makes me angry is I talked about it today, all the good that Freemasonry is choosing not to do because membership, I don't think, is dedicating themselves as much as they should be to it, which means we're leaving a lot of good on the table, which is unfortunate. I'm also mad about some things I see in the world. Um, you know, there's a lot of stuff, and it's a combination of factors, but that does affect Freemasonry as well. With gas presently in the States over $4 a gallon, and food and grocery costs increasing by 30% since 2021, I think it was. Um, Sooner or later, people are going to have to start making decisions of can I go to lodge or do I take that, do I take that overtime shift to make sure I can pay my rent? I think housing, I could be getting this wrong. I need to double check. Um, I think housing has increased by 130% over the last 30 years. But double check that statistic for me. I could be wrong. It's very likely. But it's gone up, obviously. Um, I love scary movies, Shelby, so I don't get scared watching them. I mean, there have been movies that have scared me in the past. I would say Requiem for a Dream and Mulholland Drive were the two scariest. But I enjoy slashers. I think they're really fun. Oh, Minotaur, that sucks. I've never, knock on wood, I've never had arthritis. But I'm sure that it sucks very much. So I'm thinking about you, and I hope you're doing well. And um, I don't know if there's any remedies, whatever it is, listen to your doctor. Yeah, we're cortisol maxing right now in the world, I think that's for sure. The fact that look maxing is going up, the fact that I think, I talk about all the good that Freemasonry doesn't do. I do really think that amongst other things, the fact that there is such a thing called looks maxing, and there are people like Clavicular, um, are so popular, as well as the Jordan Petersons and all the rest of them. I think at Andrew Tate's, I think it's an indictment on Freemasonry. I think it shows we are not doing all of the good that we could be doing, or all of the good that we should be doing, and people are looking for that other places. Um, is there more mysticism in one lodge than another? Um, I mean, Freemasonry is not a mystical institution, so I don't think so. There may be, I mean, you need to define mysticism. Are there some Masons who are into that woo-woo stuff? Um, Probably. I'm sure there are. Maybe they all gravitate to the same lodges. Mr. Keeps, I don't hate you. I do think you're stupid, at least politically. I think you made a terrible decision. Not that it matters, you couldn't vote for him, but I do think on the second part, but I don't hate you. Um, I try to hate not people, I try to hate patterns or situations, right? I hate the fact that, I don't know, try to think of an example. I hate the fact that Freemasonry has dropped to, um, has dropped from in the States about 5 million, about 4 million members in 1959 to about 850,000, right? I hate that. I hate the fact that measles is growing across the world after we thought it'd be eradicated. I hate the forest fires. Well, I guess I don't hate the forest fires because the forest fires, they're natural. Well, I hate the fact that we have climate change and everything that's happening there, put it that way. I hate decisions, not people. Um, right? Because people are people, but I definitely hate the decisions that they can make that cause harm to others. I think within Freemasonry, we have the possibility of trying to limit that harm or mitigate that harm as much as possible. Yes, looks maxing is just old school insecurity. You're right. And the fact that it's monetized, the fact that we can now monetize insecurity is probably not a good thing, and not a healthy thing, right? I think, if you had gone back in time, 30 years ago and said, we're going to make it possible to monetize from people's insecurities if we create social media, everybody would say, don't create social media then. So, yeah, no, it does. It is really unfortunate. And one of the reasons people are insecure is because certain needs are not being met. And like going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're not having their self-actualization needs met. They're not having their self-esteem needs met. And the reason, amongst other things, is because Freemasonry is not relevant in their lives. They're not part of it. So they need to find those needs met other places. Um, I think they're decades old, but they're they may be decades old in theory, but their in the way that they are um, in the way that they are the message is sent out, in the way that the message is sent to millions of people, the medium is very different, and the medium is damaging because back in the day, a clavicular could walk up to a few people at a time, maybe have an event where he gets hundreds of people in a room to spread his nonsense. Now he goes online and he gets millions of people to spread his nonsense. God's maxing is way. I mean, many people would agree with you, Mr. Keeps. I suppose the question therein is, which God are you referring to? Um, but yeah, I think for a lot of people, certainly, if you were to ask me what's better, watching clavicular or going to church, I would say go to church is 100% better. Um, I think that's a no-brainer. Or for that matter, going to the mosque or going to your synagogue. But I don't think there's any question that I'd rather the Catholic Church pews be full than people be at home watching clavicular. That seems like a very not good thing. So yeah, I would agree with that. Um, Yeah, and the mimetic is unfortunately it allows for kind of a lot of not good stuff to get there. Jesus' only way to God is what is raised and still believe in. That's fine. I mean, Dane, a lot of Freemasons would agree with you. A lot of people would agree with you, Freemasons or otherwise. I personally have no idea, right? My concern, I've said this before, is I want to, do what I can here on Earth to try to leave a place that's better than a place that when I leave is better than when I arrived. It's not easy because I'm just one person and there's a lot of people making decisions that are making it very hard for me to do that. But that is what I'd like to say. If I can leave this earth and know that on balance it's better place because I was in it, then that's good enough for me. And what happens in the next life happens in the next life. Um, we're finding that is the case, Yo Maple. Yeah, it's unfortunate. People are less community oriented um, nowadays, and I think that's very harmful. That's harmful to society as a whole. That's harmful to individuals as well. Leaves the surf better than you found it. Is that like a surfing statement? But it's true. We should be. Leave the earth. There you go. Yeah. I want to leave the earth better than I found it. Um, I guess what I'd say is I'm not a fan of punishment in the afterlife as a reason for believing in something, or the possibility thereof. I don't think that's a healthy approach because we could both be wrong, Mr. Keeps, right? It could be that I don't know, it could be that, like, let's imagine you're Protestant and I'm Buddhist, and then it turns out that we're both wrong and the Muslim faith was the correct faith all along, right? Or, I mean, right? Or you're Muslim and I'm Jewish and the Catholic faith is right. Or, like, who knows, right? The idea that everybody is taking a risk. With whatever you choose to believe, it's always possible that you're wrong and another group was correct or no group was correct. And there's just nothing in the next life. Again, you, I guess, have to look into your heart and figure out what you think is most plausible based on your experiences. But you also have to recognize you could very well be wrong. And me personally, again, I'm not speaking for Masonry because every Mason has their own beliefs. And I've known many Christian Freemasons and Jewish and Muslim. I've never heard a sufficiently good argument for me to believe that the Christian religion is the correct one. It could be, but I suspect it's also possible that the Muslim religion could be correct, the Jewish one could be correct. If, Buddhism, Hinduism, I don't know. If you want to know which one is correct, don't ask me. Talk to your religious leadership and talk to a variety of religious leaders, perhaps. Um, do you drive? I do not drive, but I should be driving again. Well, I mean, I think Pliny the Elder had it best, right? I really like Pliny the Elder. He's a writer from ancient Rome, and he was writing at a time when there was this massive increase in the number of gods that people were either believing in or worshiping. Like there was a god of travel, there was a god of um, there was a god of agriculture and the bounty and wheat and fever and a million other things. And he said, instead of worrying about all of this stuff and worrying what happens after you die and worrying about the gods, he said, just be a good person, try to be good to the people around you, and try to leave things better than you found them. And he said, just do that. That's the best way to be godly. And I tend to agree with that. As you say, at the end of the day, we can just follow our conscience. We can just look at the world around us and try to figure out what we think is most plausible and then follow that approach. Um, I just don't find, and this has always been my case, as somebody who I've been to churches before, every now and then I'll go to a church if I'm invited. Um, um, I can understand the plausibility argument of a supreme being or a creator, because why do we exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? The idea of you can't have you can't have an infinite chain of events. I don't know if I agree with that completely, but I understand the plausibility of those arguments. The plausibility of particular religions and why one is better than the other, why a Christian religion is more likely than a Muslim religion or the Jewish religion or Buddhism. I've never personally heard any arguments as to why one is more plausible than the others that I find believable or more plausible. What I always find is if you're a good person, then you're a good person. I don't find the idea of a hell to be plausible any more than I find the idea of, let's say, the Muslim faith to be plausible. It doesn't speak to my heart or conscience in any meaningful way. I appreciate the membership. And I'm grateful for my Muslim brothers and my Jewish brothers and my um, uh, my Christian brothers and my Catholic brothers and my First Nations and Indigenous brothers. And I find all of their faiths to be fascinating. And in my experience, it all gives them a sense of purpose and helps them lead good and moral lives. And I think that's awesome. And once we're in the next life, I guess we'll find out who's right and who's wrong. And I guess I'll see you then. Um, you invited me to your faith? I mean, a lot of people have invited me to their faith, Mr. Keeps. On this channel, every now and then we'll get people. I've had people from the Muslim faith invite me to be, to follow Islam. I've had Christians invite me to their faith of different denominations. I'm assuming most were Protestant. I'm sure some were Catholic. I've had some Orthodox Christians invite me to their faith. I appreciate invitations, but again, I've read the Bible. It's been a long time. I'm trying to read the Quran, but I keep getting sidetracked. I don't know. I just personally, I believe in a supreme being. I question the plausibility that any one faith is the correct faith. Seems highly questionable to me at this point. But I think the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is we welcome people of all different faiths and beliefs. I think the fact that we live in a country and in a world where more and more often I'm hearing people ask questions like, how can somebody who's Muslim and Jewish and Christian be part of the same organization? I think the fact that that is a question nowadays is very concerning to me. Because when I was growing up, there was an understanding that your religion didn't matter. It's how you treated other people. And now it seems that that idea is going away. Do I believe in heaven? I don't know. I believe that there is a value to humanity or to humans that exists past our death. Whether that value has a conscious experience, I highly question it. I've said before, I define the soul as that immeasurable part of all humans, which is nonetheless equal to the other. So, me and you, Shelby Woods, we're different heights, we're different weights, we're different eye colors, different hair colors, we'll have different skin tones, different fingerprints. In a million ways of measurement, you and I are different. However, there is an immeasurable quality to us that is completely equal. That is our value. We are each equally valuable because we are each human beings. Even though that value cannot be measured in a literal sense, we nonetheless know it to be true. And because we know it to be true, I think that immeasurable value is the soul. And I think that that value persists even after we die. For example, the reason that I have to take the time to fill out a form and opt in to being a organ donor is because even after I die, my body is still considered to have value and it still has autonomy. And you cannot take the organs without first having my permission or the permission of my executor. Which, by the way, once again, everybody has my permission to take my organs if you need them. But the point is, I'm even looking at being an organ donor as a living organ donor and donating my kidney. So I think that value persists even after we die. Does it have a conscious experience? Does it know what's happening? That is not something I necessarily believe, though I don't know for sure. Again, I'll find out when I'm in the next life. Low, please hit like and subscribe. Dane, I mean, I've met enough Muslims and people of Islam who are not striking anybody. My suspicion is that's a matter of how you interpret as to what is actually the case. But that's always going to be true, right? People will interpret religions in a lot of self-serving ways. You need to be really careful with how you do that. Shelby, I have not. Well, actually, I've fallen a few times and cut my lip and busted a tooth, and I guess I did taste some blood then, but it was my own blood, so I think that's okay. If it's somebody else's, that's where the problem is. Well, there you go. Maybe you're right, Yo mate. But again, we're gonna find out when I'm in the next life. So I guess we'll all know. Could be Mr. Keeps is right. Could be I'm right. Could be a third person is right. Who knows, right? Nobody knows for sure. The next meeting of my lodge, we are dark for the summer, but we do have some barbecues coming up and special events. My next meeting will be in September. My next stream will be 1 a.m. So that's going to be fun. We're going to be ending this stream soon. It's been about 4.5 hours. Actually, 3.5, I think. Sorry. Yeah, 4:25. So not a bad length of stream. I'll be back on at 1 a.m. Mark your calendars. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., me streaming with my friend Duan, talking about the, amongst other things, talking about the Windsor Hip Hop Festival. August 21st to 22nd, 24-hour stream celebrating the Masonic Medical Research Institute, both of which is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And yeah, thank you all for joining as always. Duan? Yeah, he's organizing the Windsor Hip Hop Festival. It's going to be a blast. We as Freemasons, should care about these things, should care about organizing and celebrating our local community, whether it be music or otherwise. Not that much, just my computer, and that's it. But I like having my my wheelchair, I should say. Nice, Borderline. Enjoy it. Shelby Wood says, hey. All right, I think we'll be ending this stream now. I don't see anybody else jumping on. All right, guys, I will be back 1 a.m. And then let's see about organizing and showing up to some of these special streams we got. Thank you guys so much. I will see you all soon. Brock, send me that email. I'd love to be on your channel. I hope you enjoyed what I was talking about. I hope it made sense to you. Everybody, check out at Refreshment Podcast on the YouTube. All right, guys. See you guys all very soon. And thank you all for being here. If I could turn, there we go. All right, talk to you guys soon.